also in the export sales that the company did at 66 crores, but gross margins have continued to deteriorate over the last 2 years, and largely for the last year, lower margin products sold into models like Alto as well as Brezza have impacted the performance. So the company has mentioned that they are looking at improving the margin profile going forward, but currently that seems to be a picture, and hence a lot more perspective on Bharat Seeds, given that the outperformance has been led also by revenue growth.
Okay, Narendra, any quick view on both of these auto anchs and the entire space as a whole?
Yeah, definitely. Auto ancillaries is a space in which we are very positive on. Right now, we do not have any view on both these stocks, but in terms of ancillary space, we are very positive, and on the stocks like Minda Corporation, Pracol, Uno Minda, ZF Commercial Vehicles. So we believe that auto ancillary is a space wherein we have a sustained long-term momentum of growth, which would be there for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, thank you, Narendra. Thank you for joining us and giving us your views on the stock that we discussed on the show today. Well, moving on to our next small cap stock, that's Confidence Petroleum. Now, this stock has doubled in the first half of this calendar year, but despite that, the promoter has not shied away from buying more shares from open market. In the month of June alone, in the last 15 days, in fact, of June, the promoter has bought nearly 64 lakh shares from open market. What does the company do and what's the way forward? Let's get in Jasmeet to understand more.
Well, Samir, thank you for that. It's a quite interesting company, must say. Let's quickly understand what does the company do. Well, the company operates an LPG and CNG solution provider, and what they basically do is they provide end-to-end service across sourcing, bottling, distribution. So they control everything in-house, which helps them to impact and improve the margins and control the overall cost. When you look at the overall performance of the company, I did rightly say the stock is up nearly 80% over last 1 month, and over last 6 months, the stock has rallied nearly 110%, nearly double of what it actually is. And as rightly said, the promoter also bought in the stakes, which shows a positive momentum across the stock, and that's why the stock is rallying even today up nearly 3%. Let's quickly understand about the FY26 figure, and it's an interesting catch here, given that the revenue is up nearly 50%, the strongest growth we have seen for the revenue, but the margins have compressed. Though the top line is growing at a lower cost, that's why the margins are seeing dipping on consecutive quarters. Now, in terms of the overall margin performance, the margin is lowest in last 11 quarters so far. That's what we have understood. And further, if you look at the full year revenue, it's up nearly 50% at 4,700. That's roughly 4,700 crores, while the EBITDA is at 378 crore, up hardly 3%, which shows the overall cost is going way faster for the management. The material cost increase in the previous year has impacted the overall margins. But it's a wait and watch what is the Q1 plans for the company going ahead.
All right. Okay, Jasmeet, thank you so much for getting us those details. With that, viewers, we're completely out of time on this edition of Small Cap Buzzers. But if you have got stock-related queries, then do stay tuned in because Ask Profit to the afternoon edition is up next.
Superstar Stocks of the Day, presented by Tata Azura. हर रास्ते का सुपरस्टार.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे, केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार. विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी.
It is happening now. New tomorrows, new challenges. And all of it needs energy to work. Not afraid to imagine big. Because when energy stops taking, when it just gives, people can move. Really move. At this moment, the world's evolving. And so is energy. Suzlon. Good energies that work.
आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है.
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में.
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी. ये आपके लिए.
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में.
PMark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
These kind of awards and jury lineup, you are truly giving it the right weightage.
I think it's heartening to see talent that there is in
across India Inc. We should be awarding companies and individuals who have focused not only on growth but also on bringing good governance.
Be part of jury and vote on the people, the men, the women, the companies in India who have the right stuff is a great opportunity for us.
For us, the biggest thing is trust. That's what we provide.
We need leaders in India that can help take India being a global superpower.
We got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards.
Welcome. You're watching Ask Profit, the afternoon edition here at NDTV Profit. I'm Mahima Vatrajani, and with me is Puneet Zaveri, and this is a show that gets all your stock-related queries answered. For viewers who are tuning in, you can either give us a call or send us your queries on the WhatsApp number that will be flashing on your screen up there. And while you do that, let's take a quick look as to how the markets are doing. Well, after the heat that the Nifty saw in the last 3 days, I think it's time that even the index is enjoying the rains that we're seeing in Mumbai today. But it's up 0.6%, almost at its day's high point. With regards to the counters that are doing well on the Nifty 50, you have consumption names that are leading the gains for the Nifty 50 of Eternal, Nestle, Asian Paints, HUL, all doing very well, gaining in that range to 3 to 4% each. You also have some auto names on the back of numbers that are coming in for the auto sales doing well. Something like Mahindra and Mahindra are doing fairly well, up 2%. Both your Adani names doing fairly well, Adani Enterprises as well as Adani Ports. Kotak Mahindra Bank, of course, on the back of the acquisition of Deutsche Bank, also seeing some gain. But on the flip side, it's IT that is pulling, the threads for the Nifty 50, unfortunately. Tech Mahindra, which is down 3%, and this is on the back of the KPIT tech guidance that they've, tried to reduce. HCL Tech also seeing downtick of around 3% Hindalco continues to be under pressure. TCS, Tata Motors, L&T are some of the other names that are also under pressure. Let's try to pull up the Bank Nifty and see as to where the Bank Nifty is trading at right now. I think at its day's high point, if I'm not wrong, 57,900 levels is what we're tracking on the Bank Nifty. You also have the defense pack, which is up by about 0.2%, but I think realty is really doing well, followed by media, led by Z Enterprises. You also have FMCG, as we talked about, doing fairly well, and auto doing well as well. Let's try to pull up the mid cap 150 and the small cap 250. The mid cap 150 is still where it was when we spoke last at around 11:30, just up by about 2%. The small cap 250 is also pretty much where it was, right? Slightly, has seen a downtick from the day's high point. Trading around 0.4% higher, but a lot of action coming in specific names with regards to news flow and volume. So that's, of course, with regards to where the broader end of spectrum goes. Quickly, the BSE 500 before we start taking your questions and see as to where the action really is. KPIT Tech, of course, the one losing the most ground on that BSE 500 chart. Let's quickly try to pull that up if we can, down 15%. But you have names like Apar Industries, Tata Elxsi, IGL, Coforge, Garware Tech, also taking a knock, but RITES on the other side is doing very well. Info Systems, RHI Magnesita, Delivery, Home First, and AB Realty are some of the other names that are also doing fairly well. So that's, of course, with regards to where the markets go. But to answer all your stock-related questions, we're now joined by Kunal Rambia, who's the founder at The Street, and Neerav Ashar, Head Equity Research Analyst at Latin Manharlal Securities, joining us now. Welcome to both of you, gentlemen, and a very good afternoon to the both of you. I'll start by taking the first question, which is from Radhakrishna, who's writing us from Kochi, asking about CMPDI, and he's bought this counter at the levels of 154, and he wants to know whether he can continue to hold this one or book out at whatever profits that he's sitting at. Nirav, because I don't think there would be enough data on this one with regards to where charts go. Any view on this particular counter?
Of course, the advice would be to wait for the next quarterly results and the commentary from the company, and then only decide to take a call whether to exit the counter or to continue to hold the same.
All right, the next one that we have is coming in from Sriram Raghuraman, who is writing us from Chennai. This is one of the small cap names that we just took on the small cap buzzers. JTech is the one that he's asking about. 30 shares is what he's bought at the levels of 120 rupees. Wants to know from a slightly long-term perspective, is this a good hold? Kunal, anything on the charts for this one? It's seeing a significant uptick in terms of volumes also in trade today.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the show. So as far as this counter is concerned, it's been broadly into the consolidation phase between 125 to around 175, 180 levels. And it's definitely showing good momentum right now with good volumes also. But I think once it comes out of consolidation, I'll be more keen to see how the breakout shapes up. So yeah, if you're already holding this, hold with the stop loss of 125. The new entry should be taken above 170 or 175 on the closing basis.
Okay, all right. The next one that we have, this is on NTPC Green. Vanita from Mumbai has bought NTPC Green at the levels of 109, and she wants to know if she can continue to hold this one or sell. Neera, your view on this one?
I think this is a good company. They are definitely good financials, good execution. But the stock has been quite a laggard. So I think it's better to shift to some other names like a Suzlon Energy or an Inox Wind.
The next one that we have is coming in on Man Infra. Jevtana from Chennai has bought it at the levels of 158. 3,000 shares is what he or she has bought, and wants to know from because they've been a patient investor from almost a year ago, whether to continue to hold, sell, or maybe average this one. Kunal, what would you recommend?
See, overall, if you look at the last entire year performance, this counter is clearly making lower top, lower bottom formation, and there is not even a single ray of hope. In between, we saw kind of movement, but again, it just fizzled out. So unless this counter goes above 130, 135, I will not look at this counter from the buying point of view. But because our viewer is already holding it, I would say hold, but don't average out. I mean, because your horizon is pretty long. In that case, it's absolutely okay to hold. Revisit the channel once it crosses about 130, 135, take a view, and probably at that time we can think of averaging out. But for now, it's just a hold.
Okay. All right. The next one that we have is on Azad Engineering. Aditya from Jamshedpur is holding 500 shares, bought at the levels of 2,100. He wants to know whether he can buy more of this counter or not. Kunal, I'll stick with you for this one. What is your view on the charts for Azad Engineering?
It's a clear thumbs up on this counter. See, this counter showed the first breakout above 1975 to 2000 levels, consolidated really well, making sideways consolidation formation like a flag formation. So with the stop of 1975, one can definitely add more onto it. If he's looking out for the momentum, then he should wait for the breakout of 2200. But I think at present level, the risk reward ratio is favorable and the breakout already has happened in the month of May. So yeah, it's a thumbs up. Add with the stop loss of 1975.
Right. Okay. The next one is on Vatek Wabag. Our viewer wants a 3-year view on this one. This is Christopher, who's writing us from Chandigarh. He's bought 700 odd shares at the levels of 1539. Neera, what would you recommend on Vatek Wabag?
The clear-cut advice is to hold and to also accumulate if there is a dip in the stock.
Already sitting on profits of 3 lakh rupees. So no partial profit booking, right? Continue to hold.
No, not at all.
Okay.
We should hold.
Okay, but I must appreciate the fact that, Christopher, you've bought it at attractive levels and sitting on, significant amount of profits. The next one is from Karthik, who wants to know the right time to buy Zaggle prepaid. And he wants to know if this is the right time or should he wait for a while. I mean, Kunal, I just want to know, is there even going to be a right time to maybe enter this counter?
Yeah, you honestly look at the chart for the very first time itself after seeing the screener. Yeah. So yes, this counter has come down significantly from the extreme highs of 600 and now consolidating near the lows. But the consolidation should not be the reason for us to buy, right? So the first support which I can see on the chart is 195. though it is holding on to those levels, but there is no momentum as of now. So I would avoid this counter for now. If at all he wants to buy, then this can be a good level because risk reward ratio is extremely favorable. But I would advise to buy above 120, 225, 230 when the momentum picks up. Avoid for now.
Okay, all right. So that's the view coming in on Zaggle. I think we've got Kalyan who's calling us from Chennai. Kalyan, a very good afternoon to you. Go ahead, ask your question.
Good afternoon. So I'm holding some 150 shares of HEG, bought at the rate of 650. Actually, I bought for a short term.
Okay.
Just want to know whether I can hold, sell, or I can add on something to that one.
Sorry, what is the time horizon that you're looking at, Kalyan?
Almost 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months. Okay, then I'll take this up with Kunal. Kunal, what's your view on the charts for HEG sitting on loss of over 18,000 rupees?
See, if I look at the last 3 to 4 years performance, this counter is clearly making higher top, higher bottom formation. In the recent correction, though it has come down from 680 to 700 levels to as low as 520 levels, but this present level is very attractive. So yes, this is a level to in fact buy a little more. The stop loss in this case will be 505 on the closing basis, and the targets can be 600 levels. So yeah, it's a clear thumbs up on this counter.
Okay, all right. The next one that we have is on Godrej Properties. Now, Preet from Jaipur is holding around 164 shares, bought at the levels of 1,911 rupees, and wants to know whether to hold or sell this one. Nirav, not just on Godrej Properties, just want to understand, because for real estate, we've seen a pickup from the low point, but we've also seen volatility when it comes to the entire index, right? If you were to play this theme, do you think this is the right time to play the theme, first of all? And would Godrej Properties be your pick, or if you have any other pick in the space?
Well, I think the corporate-based real estate players, whether it is Godrej Properties or whether it is Raybund or whether it is AB Realty, continue to rule quite strongly. So I think I would hang around over there and also look for some emerging players like Mahindra Life Spaces, which have got very aggressive expansion plans in the near future.
Okay, all right. The next one that we have is on Gillette India. Shaunak Kulkarni from Mumbai bought Gillette India at the levels of 7693. He's holding around 100 odd shares and wants to know if he can, actually he's bought it today is what he's saying, and wants to know if he can continue to hold this or sell. Kunal, what would you recommend on the charts?
Since July 2024, this counter has consistently taken support near 7,500 levels, which is almost near, just a month ago's bottom. And yeah, this level is good from the long-term point of view. But again, if our viewer is willing to book in the short term, then we should be moving on to momentum-based counters and not such counters. But yeah, from the positional point of view, these levels are very attractive to accumulate, and the upside targets can be 8,600 to 8,700.
Okay, all right. The next one that we have is coming in, and this is on HCL Tech. Our viewer says that he's bought HCL Tech since the levels of 1,400 rupees and wants to know whether he can maybe buy on dips or exit this one. Nirav, the entire pack, of course, is taking a knock today, but HCL Tech is something which did gain significantly on the back of that Sarvam AI announcement that they made. Do you think that's the right strategy to approach HCL Tech, or should you stay away completely from IT names?
I think it's advisable to stay away completely from IT names, at least for the time being, till we have some clarity, and to move on to some sunrise sector like textile sector or the defense sector, etc.
Okay, all right. The next one that we have is coming in, and this is on Suzlon. Rajkishore Singh is holding, is that correct, 31,000 shares of Suzlon Energy at the levels of 59 rupees, and he wants to know whether he can continue to hold this one or not. I think Nirav has already said that his pick would be Suzlon Energy in the space, but I mean, Kunal, such a huge quantity and sitting on significant amount of loss, what would you recommend?
See, because the view is assumed to be on the shorter term, if I look at the last 3 to 4 months performance, this counter is clearly making higher top, higher bottom formation, and the recent bottom was at around 56 rupees. So I think with that particular level as a stop loss, one can definitely one should hold on to this position. On the weekly chart, this counter has not done much in the last entire year. So this is more on a higher side of it. By any chance, if we see some kind of correction near 51, 52, I think that can give us a good comfort from the risk reward point of view. So from short term point of view, hold with the stop loss of 56. And from mid-term perspective, I think this you should take an exit and wait for some kind of correction to buy.
So that's the view coming in on Suzlon. The next one that we have is on Ola Electric. Aarti from Bengaluru wants to know if this is the right time to buy the counter. Kunal, I'll stick with you for this one. What do you think? Are the charts attractive enough right now?
Absolutely, clearly making higher top, higher bottom formation right from the bottom of April. And now this counter has shown again good momentum since yesterday, right? So yeah, it's a clear buy with the stop loss of 41.5 and the upside targets can be 55 to 60 levels.
Okay. All right. The next one that we have is coming in on Trent. Lalita from Bengaluru says she bought 10 shares of Trent at the level of 2,900. So she is sitting on profit. So she's been a smart investor. Not sure if she's taken it in this cycle or not. But Nirav, for Trent, what would you recommend? I mean, if it's, taken off significantly from the days from the lows that it's seen overall, not just the day one, but it's still very far away from the highs that it has seen, right? So what would you recommend for an investor who has stayed invested in Trent?
So it's been a roller coaster ride as far as Trent is concerned, but I think the recent AGM, the aggressive expansion plans which have been highlighted for the next few years, the plans of setting up around 200 to 250 Zudio stores per annum and adding around 50 Westside stores per annum, I think augurs well. So it's a hold.
Got that view, Nirav. But the next question now coming in, and this one's on Sandur Magnes. Our viewer is holding shares at 207 odd, and he's holding roughly 3,000 shares of this counter. So bought it recently. Anirudh wants to know if he should continue to hold this. Kunal, would you recommend that at this point of time, looking at the charts?
Hi Punit. So overall trend has been pretty much sideways, not much on the momentum front. So I think with the stop loss of 200 levels, one can definitely hold on to it for now. But if the counter crosses about 220, 225, I think it will pick up the momentum and then the targets can be 260. So keep this broader formation in mind and hold with the stop loss of 200 for now.
Okay, all right. The next one that we have is on Apar Industries. This is from Francis, who is writing us from Kundapura. He is holding at the levels of holding since the levels of 8,000 rupees. Is not given the quantity, but for sure sitting on significant amount of profits. Nirav, what would you recommend on something like an Apar Industries?
Continue to hold because of strong expansion prospects.
Got it. Well, the next question is from Priyanka Asher from Mumbai, and hopefully Priyanka didn't catch on to the Mumbai rains because it's been devastating today across the city. It's come to an hold, but she is holding on to Torrent Power at 300. She bought 300 shares at 1,432. Asking if it's still a good hold at this point of time for the long term. Nirav, good afternoon. What would you recommend on Torrent Power? It's been one of the key counters, but is it still good to hold?
Well, good afternoon. And I think the power story is a structural story, and it's going to play out at least till 2035. So I think any quality stock is definitely a hold, irrespective of the valuations.
All right, so that's the view on Torrent Power. But it's time for a rapid fire round. Kunal and Nirav, you both know the drill. Try to keep your answers as short as possible. The first one that we have is from Shekhar, who's writing us from Shahjahanpur. He's holding 300 shares of Tata Chemicals, bought at the levels of 810. What's the view like, Kunal, on the charts?
It's an exit as of now.
Next one's from Benny from Chennai on TCS. He's been holding at 2,219, and I hope he didn't buy it in the falling knife. But Nirav, should he still continue to hold this counter?
No, exit.
The next one's on Tata Steel. Ramesh from Bengaluru is holding 70 shares, bought at the levels of 208. Wants to know if he can continue to hold this one or not. Nirav, what would you recommend?
Hold.
Next one's coming in on from Hyderabad. Kiran Kumar is holding on to Genus Power at 335. Nirav, should she hold the 279 shares?
Hold.
Okay. The next one that we have is on ITC. Our viewer Murliram from Chennai wants to know if this is the right time to aggregate some shares. He already has 300 shares bought at the levels of 175. Would you recommend that, Kunal?
Absolutely, it's a buy.
Also on Vikram Engineering, Kunal, is it a good buy for the next 3 months is what Divya is asking.
Yeah, it can be thought of, it can be accumulated near 72, 73 levels.
Okay, the next one is on ITC Hotels. 1,000 shares bought at the levels of 166. Shankar from Bengaluru wants to know if he can add 500 more shares and any target on this one. Would you recommend that, Neera?
Definitely yes.
Praveen from Chennai wants a long-term view on ONGC, but Neera, would you recommend that because of the volatility that we've seen, or should you look at a better pick? What's your opinion?
Well, I think it's advisable to stay away from upstream oil companies for the time being and maybe concentrate on downstream oil companies because they will likely to do better.
Okay, all right. Rubicon Research is the other one. Sumana from Dubai wants to know if this is the right time to make an entry and what could be the short-term target. Kunal?
The counter is at the extreme peak level. Wait for the correction near 1200 and think of buying them.
Harsha Engineering bought at 330 by Mahesh Babu from Hyderabad. He's asking if he should still continue to hold. Neerav been in that range for the last 2 to 3 years, right? In that 400 odd zone. Should she exit now?
It's advisable to exit.
Okay, the next one is on Himadri Chemicals. Our viewer has bought 1,500 shares. This is from Prakesh, who's writing us from Kerala. He's bought 1,500 shares at the levels of 656. The short-term target on this one, Kunal?
I'll be scared because the counter has hit the highs of October 2024. It's an exit.
Cummins bought at 5714 by Dilip. He wants to know if he should continue to hold. We've seen actually Neerav a very strong move coming in on the Kirloskar brothers stocks as well. Kirloskar Oil also a key competitor. Is there any pressure there or should he continue to hold, Cummins?
No, he should continue to hold.
Okay, the next one is from Gautam, who's writing us from USA. He's asking about a view on either Federal Bank or AB Capital. Which one is a better bet for the next 1.5 years? Neerav, what would your pick be?
I think AB Capital would be a better bet.
Idea Forge bought at 955 by MM Kapoor. Kunal, he wants to know if he should continue to hold on or sell out.
It's a clear hold.
Finolex Industries, our viewer Vishwanatha Reddy wants to know if this is a good hold. It's trading at around 174 rupees. Kunal, what would you recommend?
Just sideways consolidation, take an exit.
The next one coming in now on Bank of Baroda, bought at 275 by a viewer. He wants a 6-month view, Kunal. Should he continue to hold?
More or less sideways consolidation, switch to Federal Bank or somewhere where the momentum is. Exit Bank of Baroda.
Okay, just a shout out because Vishwanath Reddy had bought Finolex Industries at 9 rupees and now it's trading at 174. So kudos to that. The next one is on Petronet and this is from Krishna, who's writing us from Mysore. Wants to know whether this is a good buy at the current market price. Neera, would you recommend that for Petronet LNG?
Definitely yes.
All right. Okay, that brings us to the end of this rapid fire round as well as Ask Profit. Kunal and Neerav, thank you so much for taking out the time and helping us answer all of those queries. We've done 87 queries combining morning show as well as this afternoon show. But viewers, completely out of time, like I said, on this edition of Ask Profit. But do stay tuned. India Market Close comes up next.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी.
It is happening now. New tomorrows, new challenges. And all of it needs energy to work. Not afraid to imagine big. Because when energy stops taking, when it just gives, people can move. Really move. At this moment, the world's evolving. And so is energy. Suzlon. Good energies that work.
माँ भी हमेशा पी मार्क मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में। P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
I'm delighted to be chairing a committee of such distinguished fellow businessmen, bankers. It's just lovely to be back on this NDTV jury. I have been a fan of NDTV for a long time.
Many of the nominees are extremely close together in terms of what they've done.
I think it's also important that how they are reshaping the industries, commercial activities which they are into. And it's a very judicious mix of people to choose from. My compliments to the team.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards. India's unshakable news habit. NDTV.com is India's #1 English news website.
Hi, I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Watch me on NDTV Profit, where I break down the day's biggest business stories. What happened, why it matters, and what it means for your money.
Hi, I'm Neeraj Shah. Watch me on NDTV Profit for the most incisive market intelligence and meaningful corporate conversations.
And I'm Alex Matthew. Markets, mutual funds, insurance, personal finance. I help you cut through the noise and make smarter financial choices. And here's where you can watch us. Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching India Market Close. My name is Alex Matthew. With me is Hiral Nadia. Well, we're having fun this afternoon, aren't we?
Absolutely.
It's raining outside. It's great atmosphere. It's perfect for pakoda.
Is it good to be inside?
Yeah, it's great to be inside. I love sitting inside and looking at everybody else getting drenched in Mumbai's monsoon.
And having the pakodas
yes,
inside.
There you go. See? But 0.7%, you'll take this. You started off a little wobbly and then you built on that. I think this is healthy to see after 2 days of consolidation, which feels like much longer.
Absolutely. You know, the July series, I would say, has started on a strong footing. This is the indication. And I think all the data points are actually pointing out that the breadth of the rally, if you have to look at July as a month, is going to be in the broader markets. And that is evident from what's happening in terms of today's session as well.
The advanced decline ratio is actually pretty healthy. We should pull up the mid cap and the small cap indices as well, and then we'll go into some of the details. It's not too much, right? The broader markets, the breadth might be good, but at the mid cap index level, it's not significant gains. We've come off quite substantially from that initial spike that you saw.
Correct. So it's mainly your breadth that is pointing out to the kind of gains that could come in from the broader markets. Though the advanced decline ratio gap is narrowing to some extent, but still your advances are ruling as compared to your declines to some extent. Just look at the heat map in terms of Nifty 50, and that will also tell you what's happening, because
certain large caps are doing well.
I mean, a lot of them. I mean, you just name it. Eternal, Nestle, HUL. You know what's happened is yesterday you did see some bit of profit booking in terms of your FMCG names, and they've all come back with a strong, on a strong note today. Adani Enterprises Ports also very strong. You have M&M, Maruti, both of these counters which are reacting to your auto sales numbers. What is interesting to me right now is that we're all talking about El Nino impact, a deficit that could be coming in as well. And how would this really augur when it comes to auto ancillaries or even for that matter, auto companies? But I don't see that impact coming in here.
No, it's not coming in. And certainly, I think the volume data for the month of June helps, right? Because if you look at a Mahindra & Mahindra, the fact that the passenger vehicle segment has done so much better than expected with that 28% growth in the month of June. And a lot of people on the ground also pointing to robust demand. That's good.
In fact,
yeah. Just to make the point, pull up the heat map for the Nifty 50 itself, right? Because you're seeing consumption as a basket that is doing particularly well. Hiral pointed out Nestle and HUL. The concern really for these companies, Hiral, was will they be able to pass on the increases in input? And now when those pressures on the inputs are actually falling just a tad bit, like you're hearing.
Yes.
You're actually seeing the benefit of that coming through, because you saw Ridhima, a colleague, had a story just a short while back about grammage in Maggi, right? And Maggi accounts for 25% of the revenue of Nestle. On the other end, though, what is not working is the IT pack.
Absolute pain point. You're at a 6-year low in terms of the IT index. I don't know if anyone really imagined this kind of an impact with regards to IT. Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech, TCS, Infosys, name all of them under pressure.
Was it the KPIT impact?
No, I don't think so. It's the KPIT impact that has got it to a 6-year low as well, because the quantum in terms of
the latest selling
cuts. No, because see, KPIT is more of a European auto impact that you're seeing. KPIT is having an impact with regards to Tata Elxsi, Tata Tech. Those are the companies where this has a rub-off effect. But in terms of IT as a whole, I think there is a structural gap that's coming in terms of the entire space. It's only Oracle Financial, and I think we know the reasons why Oracle Financial is also up in trade, because of the kind of business it is in versus what the traditional IT companies do. But however, they were persistent, which is marginally holding up to gains of
it's also lost in the recent past, right?
Absolutely. Let's just look at the sectoral heat map as well, because that will also tell you a few things there. Real estate, continuing to see the kind of gains. Consumption we spoke about, auto we spoke about. I want to look at Bank Nifty and PSU banking space as well. Not bad. 0.8% to almost a 0.9% kind of gain. So
keeping pace with the benchmark.
Exactly. The major downtick is IT metals. In fact, I was just reading a Daulat report which was saying that the downtick that could come in the month of July also, the pressure point is mainly going to be IT as well as metals, because that's where the sell-off could continue. So I think these are two indices where investors need to keep their eye on if they're invested there.
The only thing is, and in a sense this is good from the benchmark perspective, the fact is that it's dropped now to an 8% weightage, so those frontline IT companies losing further ground will have a limited impact.
You know, the question I have now in mind is, between metals and IT, is there an opportunity to bottom fish? You know, that should be the answer that investors should get at this hour.
But in the meanwhile, you should check the fundamentals.
Yeah, and very quickly, if you have to look at the markets as well, 2-day losing streak is what we've actually snapped. A positive start to the July series that we mentioned about as well is what you're looking at. Moving from there on, if you have to look at Nifty and Bank Nifty, what's happening is they're actually struggling to cross those decisive levels. 24,100, which is on the Nifty 50, going up to 24,200, and the failure to cross these levels is indicating that the sellers are remaining active at higher levels. So the moment you cross that, you're seeing that pressure coming in, and that's where the slide comes in. The support, however, is locked in at 23,900 and 23,800 as well on Nifty 50. Now, if this cracks, the derivative cushion shifts much lower. Then you're looking at 23,400 to almost 23,300 on Nifty 50. Moving on to Bank Nifty, since I think 2 or 3 weeks, the structure is absolutely constructive when you talk about Bank Nifty as well, because the index is continuing to trade above your long-term averages. Resistance 58,000 to 58,100, and your support, which is coming in at 57,500 to 57,400. However, analysts are of the opinion that the structure in terms of Bank Nifty is much stronger as compared to Nifty 50 as well. And to actually get those details, let's get in. Sachin Janardhan Sarvade, AVP Derivatives Retail Research at IDBI Capital, as well as we have Nishchal Maheshwari joining in. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Always a pleasure to speak to you. Sachin, let me take the levels from you first. I mean, good amount of strength that's coming in terms of Nifty as well as Bank Nifty. Broader markets, pretty much subtle, but they are not on the downtick right now. If you have to analyze Nifty and see what's happening with Bank Nifty, what are the key levels you're watching out for, and when do you see that decisive upside coming in? Because 24,100 is something which Nifty is not really able to surpass on a decisive basis.
So, thank you for calling me. Currently, the PCR for Nifty is healthy, wherein it is currently at 1.2 and above levels, which is a healthy recommendation basically. But only thing is, if we are closing about 24,200 levels on a closing basis, only then we can see a decisive move above that levels, and then we can see, in case if we are closing about 24,200, then we can see 24,400 and 500 levels. But the upside is limited. Furthermore, on the downside as well, 23,800 is a good support levels. If you are closing below that, then the downside levels are 23,400 and 500 levels.
Okay, quickly, individual stocks that you're liking?
So individual stocks currently only the uptrending stocks which I am currently seeing. In that we can see from a Nifty 500 universe, Aether Energy is a very good stock. Misho I like. So these two stocks we can buy it.
Got it. Okay. For Misho, what is the stop loss and target that you have?
So for Misho, the stop loss will be 174 levels. The target is 205 and 215 levels on the upside.
Nishal, coming to you and the conversation that we were having earlier, Hiral and I, when we started the program, which is the two sectors that are underperforming today, and they have in the recent past, IT and metal. But IT's underperformance goes much further back, and for various reasons that are well documented. The question is, and a lot of people will ask this, Nishal, when do you decide that the proposition on the value is worth considering, or is this a value trap because there are structural issues at play here?
Good afternoon to you and your viewers. Basically, I think the second point of your argument is more apt out here. There is a structural issue out there, and that needs to get sorted. I think at the moment, if I really look at it, the market is discounting, saying this industry and the larger companies are going to be doing a negative, maybe 1 to 3% kind of a number, basically, as far as growth is concerned in the current year. But you really don't know, basically, whether it's going to be 1 to 3% and how long will that remain. So that's why I think there is a huge amount of uncertainty. And I think at best, this sector is unavoidable.
Metals, sorry, just to complete that point, metals, you're seeing, Nishal, the underlying commodity prices cool off in the recent past. That has to do with the dissipation of the tension in the West Asia conflict, as well as the way that the dollar is moving in the recent past, right?
So I think metals has run quite a bit, basically. I think once you take away profits as far as metals is concerned, both precious and semi-precious, I think basically even the metal rally seems to be over for me basically at the moment.
Okay, so that's with regards to Nifty metals. 30% is the kind of surge that you've seen in the last 1 year, and a 1% downtake. And I'm sure from the highs, you will see some bit of profit booking that will continue, because your metals on the LME also are seeing that kind of downtake from aluminium, zinc, lead, gold, silver. All of them have been on that downtrend in the last couple of days. But moving on, let's just quickly pull up Tata Motors PV. I think they've just reported the June numbers right now. You've seen that spike which has come in and then cooled off. We're still seeing cuts of around 0.4%. The expectation was around for 56,390. That was the number that you were looking at. The total PV sales have gone up 69%. 63,000 is what the number is with on a year-on-year basis. So clearly the numbers have beat street estimates as well. In terms of EV sales, 183% jump. 14,800 is what you're looking at in terms of where EV data goes. If you have to look at month on month, you were expecting a decline of around 5 to 6% as well. So we're going to look at that number closely. But clearly the numbers have beat street estimates as we speak. Nishchal, any view in terms of the auto sales data that has come in specifically right now with Tata Motors PV? The number is above what the street was estimating. EV has seen a growth of 183%. 14,800 is the number that you're looking at.
Very heartening, basically. I think that EV number is really heartening to see growth coming back as far as EV is concerned. Now we have to see, basically, given that the Gulf situation has got sorted, whether these EV sales continue or not. So I think that is one thing which needs to be watched out. As far as I think Tata Motors is concerned, their domestic continues to do well for them. They have got their act together as far as domestic is concerned. It is the international piece, basically, which worries. And there they are facing challenges, both in the largest market of theirs, in the US as well as in China. And I think that's what the market keeps them, a market is worried about.
Got it. Okay, all right. So that's the view on Tata Motors PV. You'll see that data trickling in over the course of the day. Quite a few companies already have released that information, and we'll try and wrap that up for you. But in the meanwhile, let's go to our stock of the day, which the team has selected as WeWork. And it is in sharp focus after a stunning 57% rally since March. The stock is up as much as 5% in trade today as well. The question is, How long will this momentum go, and what's driving it? The management, of course, is.
And the question is, Alex, in the last 3 months, however, the stock has been in terms of performance, but when you look at the 3-month chart, 58% is not bad.
No, of course it isn't. The question is, what's fueling that, and does that continue going forward? What's the room or what's the margin for error? Let's go across to Puneet to find out. Puneet, when a stock has gone up as much as this one has, then the Q1 numbers will be watched with magnifying glasses personified, right?
Well, most certainly.
Any negative over there, you know what's going to happen.
Well, most certainly, and it's been a dream run for the company because was around that 550 odd zone before that correction happened in the March lows, and then a very stupendous run, as you guys mentioned as well. So there has been a very strong performance. Yesterday, of course, the company held its analyst meet, so a lot of feedback and guidance coming through as well. And I want to start exactly with that because the management continues to maintain a very strong view. And hence they're targeting a 20% growth in terms of revenue outlook to continue in the near to medium term. They're also targeting roughly 1.5 lakh seats, of course, because it's a co-working space, million square feet as a unit to track. Also, the number of seat additions for WeWork is something to track as well. Currently, they are at roughly around 13.2 lakh seats, and that continues to and contributes to revenue. JM Financial is estimating that to jump to 18.2 lakhs in just the next couple of years, and hence that momentum is continuing as well. When you also look at the higher ROC business is via the operating leverage of the company from these seat additions, but the managed business is something that's taking shape as well. Now this basically co-working, basically the co-working branded seats of the company, that is the higher margin business. Managed business is the second key vertical that the company operates. What you can do is go on the app, book yourself a seat, and hence this is something, flex working spaces is something that's getting developed now as well. This will companies catering to both large enterprises as well as to GCCs as well. And the managed business also offers these customized solution to enterprises who are currently smaller, but as they add headcount, you will get that benefit also. I just want to talk about the managed business also because the company is expected to tap its existing co-working user base as well, and hence you will see a lot more additions coming through is what they're expecting. But when you look at the financial numbers also, FY26 the company's revenue is roughly around 2,400 odd crores. The Bloomberg estimate currently is at 3,600 crores, so a 50% revenue jump in a couple of years. JM Financial is also forecasting that similar number, 22% CAGR over the next couple of years, with a strong EBITDA margin profile, and their target price is actually 850. So that question, if further room upside, JM Financial thinks to has 15 times EV by EBITDA. ICICI actually has a bigger target price of 937. So even substantial upside from here. They are targeting a 29% EBITDA growth, a 23% EBITDA CAGR in terms of revenue. So overall, the momentum has been strong because since the IPO, there wasn't too much movement in stock price performance. But over the last 2 to 3 months, you're seeing a lot more reaction coming through on WeWork.
Got it. Thanks so much, Puneet, for that detailed update that you shared with us. Nishchal, a question for you on WeWork. What is your opinion on this projection of 20+% compounded annual growth rate in EBITDA? The company has been expanding its capacity as well. The most recent development, of course, was the addition of capacity in Singapore. And they've now, if I remember correctly, the numbers 76,000 square feet is what they have and 1,500 seats. So they've been building out their capacity and the prospects look good, at least on the face of it.
So I do not cover WeWork, but as a space, I can tell you basically there has been very good takeoff as far as the space is concerned. The sharing space, I think not this company alone. There are 2 more listed companies. Basically, all of them have been guiding very, very strong numbers. And my interactions with them basically give me this thing basically that I think a 20% number is not a very aggressive number which WeWork is putting out. And most likely it will be achieved. But given that I have not covered this company, so wouldn't be able to say that. But I'm saying as a space, looks very positive to me.
Okay, so WeWork. Sachin, anything on the charts if you have to look at a WeWork or if you have to look at Office, SmartWorks, any of those stocks excite you?
So WeWork actually has given a good breakout levels, and what we can see, the above targets are 786 and around 908 levels, which are at least 10 to 20% upside from current market price. On the charts, the support levels are around 658 and 638 levels. So if in case we are getting some kind of a profit booking as well, so that will be a good levels to add.
Right, it's nearly a quarter to 3, and you know what that means. It's time to go across to my colleague Somit Sarkar to find out what he's hearing in the chatter from the dealing rooms in Heard on the Street. Somit, good afternoon. What are you picking up?
Good afternoon, Alex. A host of stocks that have been in focus. Starting off with Avenue Supermarts. Now, there are sell flows on the large HNI desk. The stock is down 3%. The buzz on the street, in fact, some disappointment regarding the store addition is one of the reasons why the stock was down in trade at least around 3% at one point of time. For Shilpa Medicare, there are sell flows as one of the key drug approvals that was expected by the street has been delayed, and that's the reason the stock is down nearly 4% in trade. For HUL, there are buy flows on institutional desks. Dealers are indicating that both foreign and domestic institutions have been accumulating this counter in trade, and delivery volumes could be on the higher side. Paytm and PG Electroplus, both these counters are gaining in trade. Paytm is up 4% and PG Electroplus is up nearly 3% in trade. And dealers are expecting strong Q1 numbers, and that is one of the reasons why both the counters are perking up in trade. When it comes to central mine planning, a week back we did indicate that there were some sell flows that were expected, and the stock was under pressure for the last 1 week, but now dealers are indicating that the selling is largely over here, and a prominent large HNI has been accumulating this counter in trade today. And lastly, when it comes to DDIF Plastics, there's a buzz of a potential merger and acquisition activity that could happen here. Dealers indicate that the company is on the block for sale, and they have given mandate to bankers. So keep an eye out for DDIF Plastics soon as well.
A very interesting list. Thanks so much, Somit, for that. CMPDIL, by the way, we spoke with the management just a short while back, a couple of days back. That interview should be available on our social media platforms. I'd encourage you to check that out. The stock is up at the high point of the day, up about 6.3%. And we were talking at the start of India Market Close about the likes of HUL as well as Nestle, both of those stocks buzzing in trade today. So, initial question for you, HUL up about 3%, but it's not like it's done a whole lot over the last year or so. So, the question really is that if the worst is over from the perspective of the pressure of input costs, then should you look at these FMCG companies and consider adding at these levels?
I think so. Basically, they are good trading bets. So there were two things that have happened basically out there. One was obviously the input costs after this war. I think the current quarter numbers is not going to be great because they have suffered during the quarter. But going ahead, I think the input costs have all come down. So I think that will be a relief. The second thing has been the issue about the rainfall. And I think in the last 2 or 3 days after what kind of rainfall we have seen, I think the deficits are already down of June. So that's what the relief I think the market is looking at. FMCG stocks have not gone anywhere. I think they are a good play. Valuations also seem to be interesting. Looking from a historical perspective, not otherwise basically on a standalone basis. So looks an interesting trading play to me.
Okay. You know, one thing I want to add over here is it's not only your HULs or ITCs. Look at a Colgate, pull up a Britannia, pull up Eternal, pull up Swiggy. Look at all of these stocks. The entire consumption basket has been on a front footing in today's session. In fact, this is a 12-month chart of Swiggy. Just look at the intraday chart. 3% upside on this. Eternal as well as the top gaining stock in terms of Nifty 50 today. Any counters, I mean, you talk about the FMCG index as a basket is up in trade. Sachin, on the charts, do you like any of these names? Do you see further momentum picking up? Because probably with the way the monsoons are starting to pan out right now, the alerts that we're picking up from SkyMed and IMD as well are indicating it's nearing. And if it continues in the way we are seeing monsoons arrive right now, I think it can turn the tables onto a positive side.
So comparatively, what we can see from an FMCG point of view, only 2 stocks which are good on my radar is Nestle, one is, and the second is DMart. So only these two, I think the trend momentum is good. Rest all the trend for the stocks are down. So what we can see is whenever we see some kind of a bull rally, so it actually uses as a profit booking, and it can be a bull trap as well. So I think to avoid the downtrend stocks and go with the Nestle and DMart.
Okay, but today you are seeing a DMart which is under pressure. So are you seeing an opportunity to buy then?
Yes, because it has actually taken a good support levels and has recovered from the lows, and overall the trend for the stock is up only. So what we have seen from the lows, it has taken a good support levels with volumes. So it is a good opportunity to add basically.
Okay, all right. The stock hasn't really done too much. It's seen fits and starts, but it's not really managed to sustain a considered up move. Let's talk about a stock that has been under tremendous pressure in trade today. It's broken all of those levels consistently. At the start of trade, of course, it got stuck at 10% and then that circuit opened down. KPIT Tech is what we're talking about. And pull up the intraday chart. It's currently trading with cuts of 16.5%. And that's because the company was forthright and came through with a guidance that said that things are not looking necessarily very good. Just me joining in to tell you about the key numbers and why the street is so negative at this stage. Why is this coming through, Jasmeet?
Well, Alex, thank you for that. As rightly said, the stock did open with a negative bias of down 10% and broke that circuit as well, and currently down 16%. While this comes in after the management has given the weak outlook for Q1 FY27, where they expect a 1% of currency downtick on YY, revenue downtick on YY basis. Now, while they have given this reason due to the weakness in the overall European OEMs, and they're seeing the business slowing down, which is impacting company directly. Now, we have also estimated in terms of the overall revenue impact, which we might see in the Q1, and the estimated revenue in dollar terms for Q1 could be at $176 million, which is a roughly downtick of 4.7% on QOQ basis. As we look at IT on the QOQ, which gives a better image, it shows a downtick of nearly 4.7%. With this, it also marks its first quarter where it will be seeing a degrowth when you look at the over last 6 years. So first quarter in last 24 quarters see the actual degrowth, and that's what the street is not liking. Let's quickly understand why the slowdown in European OEMs. Well, recently during the July 15th, BMW, one of the biggest clients of KPIT Tech, had come out and given its guidance where they had cut the profit guidance for FY26 from earlier 3 to 6% to 1 to 3%, and the reason of cut was the overall slowdown. So that indeed has impacted the company and also slowed down company's business altogether. Now, talking about the margins and the profit performance, while the company does make a note that this all implications have happened in the later weeks, so there is no room for cost optimization, and they expect the margins and the profit to fall far more compared to the revenue on sequential basis. Now, in terms of the overall analyst estimation, they had estimated the fall could be around 1.2%, but the fall is greater than what was expected, and that becomes a key concern. Lastly, on the outlook front, the management remains confident that the H2 of FY27 will be good compared to the current quarter, and they expect the Q2 also to have similar impact what was in the Q1. So it's a wait and watch of how does the H2 pans out, and the Q1 results are awaited in the month, so let's see how that goes.
Okay, lots to watch out for. Thank you so much for that, But along with this, you have the entire index, which is under pressure. We are already at a 6-year low on the IT index. What's interesting is in terms of Infosys, yesterday's session, it actually went below the 1,000 mark for the first time in 5 to 6 years. So there are, it seems, structural issues. I mean, and how should one call this is anyone's guess. But let me get in Kunal Bajaj, Equity Research Analyst at Choice Institutional Equities. We'll talk about KPIT and then at this as a sector as a whole. Kunal, good afternoon. Hiral on this side. I mean, you've looked at, KPIT, the guidance cut that has come in for the first quarter. What is interesting is that they've also mentioned that the second quarter will be very similar to the first quarter, which is telling you that probably the first half of FY27 is going to be a washout. What do you make of this announcement and the kind of rub-off effect it could have?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Obviously, KPIT, the Q1 guidance as well as now today's Q2 guidance as well is way below expectations. We were expecting around 3% on a YOY decline, but I guess this is more than that. Sorry, on a QOQ decline, it is more than that. So we expect this downturn is because firstly, in last quarter, the company has mentioned that there were a couple of deal ramp downs that has happened. And now with European OEMs also giving commentaries around weakness in terms of EV as well as IC engines. So now they are on a wait and watch mode in terms of capex, which they are trying to do. So now we see that going forward across ER&D companies, not just KPIT, but other ER&D companies, let's say be it Tata Elxsi, be it LTTS as well to an extent. We have seen that all of these companies are giving a very subdued growth guidance for H1 FY27 specifically. All of them are expecting H2 to be better than H1, but we expect FY27 as a whole to be a gradual year as compared to what we were expecting earlier.
Kunal, if you were to extrapolate this to different companies, and quite a few stocks are bearing the brunt of selling on account of this, right? Your Tata Technology, your Tata Elxsi, and a couple of others as well. What does this mean for them?
Yeah. So what we see that KPIT specifically is mostly around automotive, while other ER&D packs, let's say Tata Elxsi, which is around 40% automotive, Tata Tech is also 80% automotive. So what we see that most of the weakness is across board. So let's say BMW, Volkswagen, all of these tier 1 OEMs have specifically said that they are trying to have a wait and watch mode, firstly, in terms of any capex. So firstly, they have moved a lot of capex into EV side. Now with Chinese OEMs, they are not trying to give the competition to Chinese OEMs in terms of technology, know-how, as well as pricing. So thus, they kind of is stuck between where to make capex investments for. So now, what we see that they will wait and watch for the next 1 or 2 quarters in order to see the macroeconomic certainty as well. Because what we see that earlier there were tariff issues. Now we see that macro uncertainty, war issues. So thus, clients are not spending; they are delaying their spend. So this is why it's a rub-on effect on the R&D companies going forward, and thus we see the revenue growth guidance cut, which most of these companies are mentioning.
Okay, so Kunal, that's with regards to where KPIT Tech goes. Now, let's look at IT as a sector. I'm just looking at Infosys. Yesterday, it went below that 1,000 mark for the first time, I think, since September 2020. The stock has fallen nearly 40% in 2026 so far versus the IT index, which is down 31%. So clearly underperformed the index as a whole as well. And this kind of a fall came in 2008 when the index fell some 37%. I mean, most of the stocks at that point in time. What is this actually telling you for the sector as a whole right now? And are you seeing any opportunities or green shoots in terms of buying right now at lower levels? Or do you think the structural issue is so big that no one knows where to go?
Yeah, this is the question of the hour. So what we see, and what I've also said in the previous shows as well. So we see a strong revenue deflationary impact due to AI productivity. And we were expecting around 3 to 4% of revenue deflationary impact due to AI productivity. But now what we can see that the decline is mostly on the front that the deflationary impact is on the upper end of 3 to 4%. That is why we see there has been a strong downturn in all of the stock on a YTD basis. Most of these companies are down 30-35%. And what we see, Infosys, obviously you mentioned that it is a 5 or 6 year low. Now going forward, what we see that any uptick also will not sustain, because we see this is a structural change until unless we see AI-led services revenue kind of replenish the deflationary impact. In the next 2 to 3 years, we can see some underperformance in IT as a whole.
Okay, so underperformance in IT is something that could continue as well. But thank you so much for joining in, and always a pleasure to speak to you on this one. A quick question, Sachin, with you on the charts. What are IT stocks looking like?
So on a long-term basis, I have checked all the 3 timeframes, basically on a daily, weekly, and monthly timeframes. It is not looking good. The structure has completely changed. Wherein earlier it was making a higher high and a higher low pattern. In all the 3 time frames, it is making lower high and lower low pattern. So this is actually very scary, mainly because even if I want to tell the lower targets, I cannot, because it is looking very scary. Only thing is in IT, Oracle Finance is looking good because the structure on all the 3 time frames is looking good. But barring Oracle Finance, none of the stocks are qualifying for that.
Sachin, we can just sense those tremors as well with what you're telling us, because absolutely, fundamentally, technically, there is just no conviction on either sides right now when it comes to IT. But that's the way it is. Thank you so much for joining in, Sachin and Nichal. Always a pleasure to speak to you. We'll quickly slip onto a short break. On the other side, we'll get you your top buy today and sell tomorrow picks as well. Stay tuned and a check in terms of what's happening with the Indian rupee.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
It is happening now. New tomorrows, new challenges. And all of it needs energy to work. Not afraid to imagine big. Because when energy stops taking, when it just gives, people can move. Really move. At this moment, the world's evolving. And so is energy. Suzlon. Good energies that work.
आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी, ये आपके लिए।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
PMark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
बरसों से सरसों
India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
These kind of awards and jury lineup, you are truly giving it the right weightage.
The eminent juries who are here, and that itself speaks for the commitment towards highlighting the advantage which India is having. What I am looking for in this is that we should be awarding companies and individuals who have focused not only on growth but also on bringing good governance.
Be part of jury and vote on the people, the men, the women, the companies in India who have the right stuff is a great opportunity for us.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards. India's unshakable news habit. NDTV.com is India's #1 English news website.
Hi, I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Watch me on NDTV Profit, where I break down the day's biggest business stories. What happened, why it matters, and what it means for your money.
Hi, I'm Neeraj Shah. Watch me on NDTV Profit for the most incisive market intelligence and meaningful corporate conversation.
And I'm Alex Matthew. Markets, mutual funds, insurance, personal finance. I help you cut through the noise and make smarter financial choices. And here's where you can watch us. Welcome back. You're watching India Market Close, and we're sitting comfortably at 24,022. We're holding above the 24,000 mark, and another half an hour or so to go. And it would be a good sign to hold above that level. The broader markets not doing as well, but well, they're okay, with gains of about 1/3% for the mid-cap index and about 0.5% or so for the small-cap index, and the breadth is holding. The one thing that's a little bit of a niggling issue today, though, is the way that the rupee is performing. And pull up the USD INR and you'll see that there's a pretty sharp depreciation of as much as 50 paise, and that means that the rupee is now trading below the 95 mark versus the dollar for the first time in 3 weeks. Abhishek Goenka, India Forex and Asset Management, joining us right now to tell us why this might be occurring. Abhishek, first of all, good afternoon. Thanks so much for taking the time. And a lot of things were working as tailwinds on the macro front for India, right? You had the fact that the war situation was easing out, crude oil prices have come off very sharply, and various other supply chain issues are also getting resolved. So why this slide in the rupee? I think you're on mute.
Hi, Alex. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. Well, I think it's more of a range-bound movement. There has been some demand from banks, what we hear today. But broadly, I think all the fundamentals which have shifted in the last few days for the oil prices on the flows front, which is expected to be $50-70 billion. I don't think that there is anything to panic in the rupee. I think there will be some demand which we hear from the banks, but otherwise everything is fine. The equity markets are also decent today. So I think it's a sell-on rallies market. Lately, some pressure could also happen because of the US 10-year and 2-year moving up a little bit. I think that's also putting some pressure, but otherwise I don't think that it's a structural move on the upside. I think the US dollar is going to get sold going forward.
So a significant spurt in the volatility though. So is there evidence, Abhishek, from what you're hearing about possible central bank intervention to control that in a sense? One, two, where do you see fair value and where do you see the rupee settling in the near to medium term?
So our house view is that now the depreciation of the rupee which happened, that depreciation is done. So now whatever rallies we get, we are using this as an opportunity to cover dollars for our export clients. In terms of fair value, I think time and again what we have seen internally is that whenever a rupee sees such a huge depreciation like what we saw this time, most likely in the next 2 years, that excess depreciation gets mean reverted. What I mean is that if the market is, say, depreciated by around 12%, then in that case, an average depreciation of 3-4% happens. So most likely, the rupee is going to mean revert this year and maybe next year, and find a fair value of around 93 to a dollar going forward. So I think the fair value should be 92.5, 93. There would be buying happening because RBI also wants to build up reserves. So there will be buying happening around that levels, but I do not think that we are going to see year-on-year appreciation in the US dollar going forward. And I think the fair value should be close to 92.5, 93.
Got it. Abhishek, thanks so much for that quick view and pleasure speaking with you as always.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
All right, we're joined now by Shivangi Sarda, who's analyst equity derivatives and technical at Motilal Oswal, as well as Sudeep Bandyopadhyay, who is a market expert. Thank you so much to the both of you for taking the time. I will start with you, Shivangi. We're looking decent at this moment, at least when you look at both the benchmark Nifty 50 and the Nifty Bank. Do we hold above that 24,000? If we do, what are the prospects in the near term and what is the call on the Nifty Bank? I think you're on mute.
Very good afternoon, Alex. Thank you for having me. We've seen that July series have actually kicked off quite well, and we've seen that ahead we're holding about 24,000 levels, which had actually become a psychological barrier in the previous session. Bulls and bears were having a tug of war in the June series, but the kind of rollover, which has been 80% onto July, has been quite significant with the OI addition on the long side as well. So overall, July perspective is looking quite positive. Even seasonality-wise, we've seen that 8 out of 10 years have been quite significant and positive, with an average return of around about 3.1%. So overall, we're expecting Nifty to move in a positive direction with the next up move towards 24,200 and 24,400 levels, with an immediate support at 23,850 levels and slightly positional level 23,700 marks would be important to watch out. Talking about Bank Nifty, of course, we've seen that private names are kind of holding the strength in this one. But the NBFCs have also started contributing, and this one's quite remarkable. Bank Nifty is comfortable above 58,000 levels, and we're also, tad bit closing above the same, which indicates that the strength is likely to continue for the next coming few sessions. And we're expecting 58,750 immediately, and then 59,000 slightly positional for Bank Nifty, with a support of 57,750 zones. And focus would be on the NBFC and private name.
Okay, NBFC's private names is what is on your radar. And usually I was just looking at some data where your Nifty has delivered positive returns in 18 out of the 25 instances if you have to look at the month of July. And it's translated into almost a 72% success rate. Average return is around 2.2% for Nifty 50 as well. But yes, there is a caveat where all your surrounding factors need to come in as well and align. When you talk about your crude prices, when you talk about what's happening to the rupee, as well as the geopolitical concerns. Shivangi, in this backdrop, what would your top picks be? Because the setup structurally is much stronger as compared to, in terms of Bank Nifty versus Nifty 50 right now.
Absolutely, Hirar. In line with the data point, we've seen that Bank Nifty has quite significantly improved, and good amount of short covering can be seen leading here. Of course, my focus would be on some of the NBFC and private names, but on my radar is Axis Bank on the banking space, which is moving quite well. This one's getting ready for a good up move. We're expecting the next targets to be around about 1400 levels immediately for Axis Bank. And the second pick on my radar is HAL, which is seeing a good amount of base formation here. Short covering trigger will, drive this stock in this series. We've seen a good retracement level being respected here, and the stock is getting ready for another, 4 to 5 odd percent immediately. So we're looking at HAL for the next targets of around about 4,600 levels and 4,350 as a support.
Got it. Okay, Sudeep, question to you first on strategy before we get into any individual stocks, which is, are you going to keep the powder dry for the next couple of weeks, or would you advise that that should be the case? And look at the numbers that come through in the first quarter to see the extent of damage, if at all, and to see if there's a possibility of an upside because of a surprise positively, or would you deploy right now in anticipation in certain pockets where you're pretty confident that things will likely be better than expected?
Well, Alex, it will be a mixed kind of a strategy. I think what you mentioned towards the end, certain pockets we are reasonably confident, and we would prefer deployment sooner than later. Whereas definitely some amount of liquidity needs to be retained. Considering the volatility we have been witnessing in the market, the monsoon is still a little iffy and uncertain. First quarter results are not expected to be anything great. The geopolitical situation has improved, but we can't say we are out of the woods. So considering all this and considering the nature of the current US administration, which keeps bringing surprises, which kind of rattles the world order, I think it's better to keep some cash in hand.
Got it. I think everybody sitting in Mumbai will be looking outside and saying there's nothing iffy about the monsoon. And the only thing that they would wonder is if you can export the monsoon from here to the various other places where there isn't enough rain, then we'd be completely okay. But what are those areas where you're comfortable, Sudeep? And name a few sectors that you're absolutely certain, or companies where you're absolutely certain that things will get better or are better this moment.
I'm very confident on pharma. I think last time when we discussed, I mentioned this as well. I think this is one sector which is to a great extent sheltered from the geopolitical challenges, the tariff-related tantrums, and even monsoon-related worries. Indian pharma, I strongly believe, is at a place where Indian IP was 20 years back, at the cusp of a massive scale-up and growth. One bunch of companies, which are the frontline companies, they are getting into a different league. Look at Sun Pharma, 70% of its revenue is going to come from branded and patented products post the Organon acquisition. They are moving into a different league. We have to understand and admit that. Similarly, I think the kind of a similar trajectory will be followed by, let's say, Lupin, Glenmark, Wockhardt, Cipla, Dr. Reddy's. All these companies will be moving towards that direction. The CDMO players have their own tailwind behind them, with China Plus One very clearly being the preferred mode for US and European manufacturers. Indian CDMO players will keep getting orders, and their business will be robust going forward. The third segment, which is domestic pharma, which is growing at about 25% CAGR, they also will continue to attract a lot of money, and things will start moving in the positive direction. The fourth angle to the entire pharma healthcare piece, hospitals. We are bullish on hospitals as well. I think the opportunity is humongous. The consolidation happening pretty fast. A lot of private equity money is moving in. And I think companies like Apollo Hospital, the undisputed leaders, performance continuously improving, scope for significant growth in the offering. So, this is one sector which definitely fits in with what you are asking. The second, I will just take a minute and mention, is that private banks. I think the leading private banks are quoting at a very reasonable valuation compared to the overall market, compared to multiple other sectors. And the margin of error is very limited there. So whether you look at an ICICI bank or even HDFC bank, I think the downside is the chance of a downside or the downward risk is much lower than the upside potential.
Okay, so interesting names there, Sudeep. I would want to talk to you about IT as well a little later on, and metals as a space. But before that, despite a cut in ATF prices, air flyers may still not get any relief in fare cost. Sources are saying that immediate fare relief for passengers is unlikely. Danish is here with more details. Danish, what are you picking up so far?
Well, that's correct. While the airline industry has welcomed the new ATF prices, and by that I mean that the OMCs have cut ATF prices by rupees 5 a litre, and the final prices of ATF per litre is right now at 110 rupees per litre. But if we look at this from an overall point of view, whenever airlines uplift ATF in the aircraft, they always buy the ATF in a kiloliter percentage form. But if we look at that particular figure, right now the ATF per kiloliter is costing around 1.10 lakh rupees, and this is on an average. But if we compare this with the pre-war levels, at that time the ATF prices were hovering around somewhere between 1 lakh to 1.04 lakh per kiloliter. So because of this, since the ATF prices are still on the higher end and it hasn't come down from the pre-war levels, hence sources are telling us that the airlines will still wait and watch, and they will not pass on the immediate relief that they have been that they just received from the OMCs, but they will take a little bit of more time to factor in all the other possibilities that how can they bring the cost down. So all in all, if we see, if passengers feel that because of the ATF is coming down, their overall ticket rates could come down as well, but it doesn't seem so at the moment, as the airlines will still take a lot of time to really pass on these benefits to the passengers.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let's stick with the exclusive stories then. And sources telling NDTV Profit that OMCs are unlikely to cut petrol and diesel prices immediately despite softer crude. Sesha has more on this report.
Right, despite softer global crude prices, consumers may have to wait a little longer for any cut in petrol and diesel rates. That's because sources tell us that OMCs are unlikely to reduce retail fuel prices immediately, as they are still recovering losses from the West Asia conflict. In May alone, OMCs reported cumulative losses of nearly rupees 1,000 crore a day, with under recoveries currently estimated at about 500 to 600 crore a day. Refineries are also processing high-cost crude purchased when prices had surged over $100 a barrel. This expensive inventory is also expected to last another 1 to 2 months, is what we are given to understand. Companies, in meantime, are also waiting for more clarity on the global crude price outlook before taking a call. According to S&P Global Energy, crude prices could climb to $80 to $90 a barrel in the second half of 2026, that is this year, as oil inventories continue to shrink globally after the supply disruptions linked to the West Asia conflict. Analysts also say that normalization of supplies could take up to a quarter or two. Meanwhile, Naira Energy, which is a private player, has announced a 5 rupees per litre cut in petrol prices and 3 rupees per litre cut in diesel prices. However, state-run OMCs are not expected to match these reductions anytime soon.
Thank you for that. So reduction in prices not on the cards, because everyone was expecting that because Naira has gone ahead and reduced prices, there is a potential that OMCs will be forced to, but does not seem to be the case. So Deep, your views when it comes to oil marketing companies, because now that crude has come off substantially, we are at pre-war levels. How are you expecting the impact when it comes to marketing margins of the companies and as an investment opportunity now?
Well, I think for some time they will not reduce because, if you recollect, crude prices went up sharply, but the prices at the pump level didn't go up for a very long time. So there was a bit of under recovery for a period of time. And I think the government also will allow them to recoup that part of, at least a part of that loss before they go ahead and reduce the rates. That's as far as the price scenario is concerned. As far as oil marketing companies are concerned, I think HPCL, BPCL, they're good companies, but I normally avoid. I think there are too many variables which keep changing, including when they can or will be allowed to make prices market linked. We had a situation of massive under recovery for a very long time, which persisted and kind of led to a massive dent in their P&L, which probably we'll get to see in the first quarter numbers when they come up with. And I think this keeps happening periodically. So I will prefer to avoid oil marketing companies. As and when appropriate, we do keep looking at oil exploring companies like ONGC and look at opportunities there, but not the marketing companies, which are completely dependent on multiple factors, including the government's kind of diktats.
Got it, yeah. Okay, so that's a view on oil marketing companies and the fact that you could well see fuel prices stay the same for a while. Pesalo Digital is a stock that we're focused on as well, and the stock has surged quite considerably. It's currently at that upper circuit as the promoter is increasing the stake in the company. Sharaj is joining in to tell us why this is likely taking place and what the other drivers for the stock could be in the near term.
Definitely, Pesalo Digital has made a lot of paisa for its investors, it seems. But is the upside capped? That's the key question. But before that, I'm going to give you 5 key reasons why the stock is rallying in the day. It's almost an upper circuit. Our promoters have increased their stake. And that is where a full-fledged press release has come. More details, the company's launched its 3-year roadmap. We'll come to that. The third one is, importantly, the HNI buying is coming in high volumes. And last trading session also, there was a good buying. Recently, their share pledge release has happened, which is, of course, a positive news flow. And lastly, the cost of borrowing has reduced for the company after its recent ECB bond issuance. And this is like a raw material for a company like them. But let's go into the more details about this and the promoter stake, how it has actually gone up. From FY19, it was 26% and gradual climbing happening. And right now, it's at around 47% stake when it comes to the overall promoter stake. Increase the FY26 numbers, all of them, be total income, PAT, AUM, all of them going up. You can see that on the screen. The numbers are pretty strong in the fourth quarter as well. And now that brings us to the 3-year roadmap. What is something to be targeted? The doubling of AUM, total income and PAT. And of course, this is something which the management had stated. AI-powered lending, that's what they are talking about. And lastly, I'd like to mention the distribution expansion, which they are going ahead with. I did a little bit of research on the stock tracking. From March lows, the stock has already more than doubled, but still from its lifetime high levels, it's down 23%. But when it comes to the valuations, it's quite high actually. It's 3.6 times price to book ratio. So of course the valuations are not comfortable at all. Remember, there are macro and sector related risks as well, and also there's a lack of analyst coverage and the valuations are too expensive. Maybe the upside, maybe a potential capping can be there in this, but as of now it's at upper circuit at 20%.
Okay, so that's with regards to Paisalo Digital as we speak. Thank you, Sharad, for that. Shivangi, 20% upper circuit right now, but if anyone gets an opportunity tomorrow to look at a Paisalo Digital, would you be advising a buy or book profits?
Now, we've seen a good amount of surge today, and after a consolidation of a pretty long time, and the volumes have been quite muted from the last 15 odd trading sessions. So a surge here in only today's session is creating some bit of data mismatch here. But overall, we've seen that if it holds above these levels, above today's high, then we could attempt to again buy and ride the momentum. But strictly maintaining a stop loss would be recommended here.
Got it. Quick question to Sudeep as well on Paisalo. If you've looked at the company, the stock is up 123% over the last 1 year. What would you do? One, if you hold it. Two, if you don't.
Well, I don't think if I don't hold, I will buy the stock at this stage. I think if I have to really buy in this space, there are other available options. If I'm holding the share, maybe I'll look at opportunity for booking profit.
Okay, so that's with regards to where Paisalo Digital goes. The other aspect I want to talk about is where RBI has tightened the funding norms for prop desks, raising costs, cutting trading capacity, and likely impacting the margin volumes or the market volumes as well. This is something which was announced earlier, becomes effective today, which is the 1st of July, and that is why we're doing a refresher where Sharad is joining us with all the details. Sharad, for our viewers, a refresher of what this would mean, and would there be any impact?
Well, yes, definitely there is going to be impact, be it traders or institutions. But let me just give you a revision of that. From today onwards, which is July 1st, RBI has implemented stringent funding norms for both prop desks as well as brokers. Now, interestingly, one important fact I would like to put is prop desks are giving almost 50% of contribution to the total equity options turnover segment in NSE. And to put that in perspective, these bank guarantees will come with a collateral with almost 50% of backing coming in cash. Now, what's the impact? First is, of course, the cost of funding expected to rise for the traders. The effective trading capacity, that will shrink from almost 1.7 times to 0.85 times. That's what the traders are talking about. Cash futures arbitrage, index arbitrage, and options market making will face much tighter profit margins. But remember, the foreign HFTs won't be affected because of their GIFT City exposure. But for institutions also, there is an impact. It's a negative impact for prop desks, broking counters, and of course the market makers. Largely, most of them are in the unlisted space. But looking at BSE, 12 to 15% of trading volumes can be impacted. And for NSE, this can range between 10 to 15%. This is just the first day. But of course, we'll try to get the data and give you the entire picture of how much volume impact has come in for the exchanges.
Thank you so much for that, Sharad. Sudeep, any view on this? You're talking about a 10 to 15% of trading impact when it comes to NSE, as Sharad was just mentioning. As the rules become effective today, how are you looking at it?
Well, definitely, this will have initially some impact on the volumes and the profitability, etc., as far as domestic participants are concerned. Of course, the foreign participants will not be affected, as a lot of them are coming through the GIFT City and otherwise. So the capability of executing trades, the volumes, everything gets affected. I'm not sure whether it is very fair to the domestic investors. And at least for some time, this will have a negative impact on exchange volumes.
All right. On that note, Shivangi as well as Sudeep, thank you so much for taking the time today. Pleasure having you on the program as always. We're just below the 24,000 mark as we draw to a close today. And frankly, even the advanced decline ratio, the market breadth, has worsened a tad, but we'll come to that in just a bit. But 0.5% gains for the Nifty 50. The Nifty bank holds with gains of 0.75%. And I think there's strength across both public and private sector banks
Absolutely.
today.
Let's just pull up the intraday charts of Nifty 50, Bank Nifty and the PSU banking space to tell you what Alex is actually pointing to. Nifty 50 as well. I mean, you've come off the highs of the day, but 0.5% up move. You know, the question, this is the problem. We're not able to hold on to that 24,100 and the 24,000 mark. And that's what is the concerning area in terms of the overall breadth. Let's just pull up the intraday chart of Bank Nifty as well.
Yeah,
there you go.
holding.
It's holding on with good amount of gains, and the PSU bank index as well. If we can have that chart on the screens too. I mean, similar kind of charts, right? So good moves coming in on both the sides over there. I think let's look at the advanced decline ratio as Alex was just pointing out.
It's closed. It's closed just a tad bit towards the end.
It's narrowed slightly further. So there is that little bit of worsening that's happening there, where declines are increasing to some extent, is what Alex is also trying to point towards. But a 1500 on the advance, not a bad number. It's your broader markets as well. Though, if you see NSE 500 or BSE 500 in terms of components, Alex, see the kind of names that are coming in there.
Yeah, there are quite a few interesting ones. We've actually pointed to a few of these before the start of trade as well. RHI Magnesita is something that we looked at. But by the way, the entire consumption basket looking incredible today. So pull up the components of the FMCG index or the consumption index, whichever you choose, and you'll see quite a few of those names doing particularly well. Okay, so we've looked at FMCG. Dabur right on top there, Colgate, Nestle, one of the components of the Nifty 50, and HUL up about 3% or so. So it's a day, I think, for consumption and specifically FMCG today.
Absolutely. Day, I think, at the day's highest levels. You know, on one side you have the consumption basket, on the other side you have the Nifty IT index, which is at a 6-year low. Very quickly, let's look at the heat map on Nifty 50 as well, and then we look at the sectoral indices with the broader markets before we wrap up. There you go. I mean, it's held on. Eternal, Adani Enterprises, Asian Paints. Adani Port seems to have come off slightly from the highs. No, there you go. Still 2% up move coming in there. You have SBI Life also seeing some smart moves. On the lower side, HCL Tech, Tech Mahindra, TCS. Metal names also. Hindalco, Tata Steel trading under pressure. Dr. Reddy's on the back of competition in GLP-1 is taking a beating today.
And Tata Motors PV, interestingly, after it had those numbers come through, and I think pretty decent numbers on the EV front as well, but then it has succumbed to quite a bit of selling towards the end of the session and now trading with cuts of about 1.2%.
Just quickly, the mid-cap and the small-cap index, we'll just quickly brush through that to see what's happened there. Yeah. There you go.
Not too much action.
No, not too much action from the time we started off in the last 1 hour. Pretty much even Stevens there.
And we've held on the small-cap index as well. So all told, it's a pretty decent day of trade, particularly for the large-cap index and for some of those stocks, ending the day with gains of over 3%. But I think there's also a story with regard to the rupee and the fact that it slid. Let's see whether we carry this tomorrow and the strength in the index continues, because tomorrow, remember, is the Sensex expiry as well. We have to end this program, but from Hiral, myself, and the team that put the show together, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned, and a lot more coming up on NDTV Profit.
Co-powered by CoinSwitch.
Hello and welcome to NDTV Profit. You are tuned into Crypto Minutes powered by CoinSwitch for your daily dose of news and updates from the crypto world with me, Sharad Dubey. Let's take a look at the top headlines. Bitcoin below $59,000 mark on macro concerns. Australia crypto travel rule coming soon. UK FCA publishes final crypto rule book. And Trump's crypto income tops $1.2 billion. Well, those were the top crypto headlines at this hour. How should you navigate crypto and spot the next big trend? How should you keep track of the sentiment at the moment? Let's hear that from Vimal Sagar. He's the co-founder and CEO at CoinSwitch. Well, Vimal, recent ETF outflows have weighed down the Bitcoin.
This has put pressure on the price. Naturally, now people are asking, are big investors losing interest on Bitcoin? But if you look closely, the real story is quite different. Let me explain first why these flows are so important. They show us what the long-term money is doing. Not the small traders, but the serious institutional investor. So this gave us one of the clearest picture on how the market is really feeling. Now, let's say when the money is flowing in, it means institutions are getting comfortable with Bitcoin, and when money flows out, it usually means that they are being a little more careful or simply rebalancing their portfolios. But one more thing, we cannot look at these numbers in isolations. These investors are also watching interest rate, liquidity, and how much risk and exposure they want to take in one particular asset. Here is also a very important point to call out. A lot of this money is not leaving the market completely. It is moving into AI and semiconductor stocks. These companies are showing strong earning and strong growth. So the investors are simply trying to chase this opportunity for now. In fact, since April, US semiconductor funds have attracted more than $20 billion, even as money has moved out from Bitcoin. But let us look at the actual number. US Bitcoin ETFs saw around $4.4 billion outflow over last 13 days. This sounds like a big number in isolation, but remember, these funds are still holding close to $80 billion in assets. So these investors are actually not running away from Bitcoin. They are just being cautious and waiting for the right opportunity to invest in further. If we talk about the reason for this, the main reason is the US economy. The US Federal Reserve looks like to keep the same interest, the higher interest rate for longer period of time. And when the interest rates are higher, the asset like Bitcoin, where you won't get any yield, become less attractive for the investors. So they simply try to stay away for a time being. So if we talk about the bottom line, these outflows are actually not a sign that institutions are turning against Bitcoin. They are just being cautious, being careful for the moment. And when situation become better, they will again come back and invest in Bitcoin again, like how we seen in past.
Well, that's what Vimal is talking about when there is a pressure coming in the ETF flows, what's happening to the Bitcoin prices. That's a very interesting take. But of course, let's also hear out what he had to say about what happens to the retail investors then.
Yes. For retail investor, the key is not to treat weekly ETF flows as buy or sell signals. Instead, focus on the broader trend and invest in line with your long-term financial goals. Diversifying your portfolio and investing consistently over time helps reduce timing risk and is generally a more effective strategy than reacting to short-term market movement or headlines.
Well, thanks a lot, Vimal, for that. Now, as we wrap, remember, you can reach out to CoinSwitch's dedicated helpline where anyone can connect with the in-house experts to get their queries resolved, whether it's about crypto, regulations, taxation, or the broader industry. The team is available to provide guidance and help users make informed decisions. Well, that's all on this edition of Crypto Minutes powered by CoinSwitch. Thank you so much for tuning in.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी.
It is happening now. New tomorrows, new challenges. And all of it needs energy to work. Not afraid to imagine big. Because when energy stops taking, when it just gives, people can move, really move. At this moment, the world's evolving. And so is energy. Suzlon. Good energies that work.
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी.
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में. PMark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
सरसों से सरसों.
India Inc.'s most respected names. chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
I'm delighted to be chairing a committee of such distinguished fellow businessmen, bankers. It's just lovely to be back on this NDTV jury. I have been a fan of NDTV for a long time.
Many of the nominees are extremely close together in terms of what they've done.
Gender parity to be reflected while we choose leadership as well.
It's also important that how they are reshaping the industries.
We've got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards. India's unshakable news habit. NDTV.com is India's #1 English news website.
Hi, I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Watch me on NDTV Profit, where I break down the day's biggest business stories. What happened, why it matters, and what it means for your money.
Hi, I'm Niraj Shah. Watch me on NDTV Profit for the most incisive market intelligence and meaningful corporate conversations.
And I'm Alex Matthew. Markets, mutual funds, insurance, personal finance. I help you cut through the noise and make smarter financial choices. And here's where you can watch us.
The news, Ayush. Since when do we do scripts? Fair point. Picture this. The biggest stage. Floodlights. Wow. 4K. The works. Where's the hook? There's going to be celebrities and guaranteed eyeballs. Where's the hook? Think about this. Front page advertisements and hoardings. Bro, where's the hook? Cross-platform, digital first, virality. Without a hook,
Good evening, you're watching Market Express with me, Shreyansi Singh, and this is the show that gets you a snapshot in terms of everything that has happened thus far in the trading session as well. But before we do that, let's take a very quick look at the markets then. The Lal Street ended firmly higher in trade today as positive bias was seen in the benchmarks. Nifty ended around the key 24,000 level, while Sensex also saw healthy 400-point rally also coming in. When you talk about broader markets, you're looking at them also gaining in tandem with the key indices, with both small and mid caps really ending the day with modest gains as well. Moving on then, let's talk about realty that remained the standout performer alongside FMCG and the auto pack. So that's even as IT and metal stocks, by the way, see continued selling and pharma slips on profit booking. Moving on then, let's talk about Morgan Stanley that has maintained its overweight rating on Bharti Airtel and sees nearly 34% upside coming in from some of the current levels. Now, the brokerage believes that Airtel is well positioned to benefit from tariff hikes, rising data usage, as well as continued growth when it comes to home broadband business. It also expects the company, in fact, to deliver healthy earnings growth over the next few years. The bullish stance comes despite recent volatility in telecom counters. Moving on then, let's talk about REITs, and that really rallied sharply, as you can see on your screens as well. About 14% rally coming in after the company really secured a new infrastructure consultancy contract, and it's worth about 175 crore rupees. Now, when you talk about this particular counter, it's gained as investors really cheered this particular order and a sharp jump in trading volumes as well. But let's talk about this particular project as well. And this really strengthens order book coming in for the company, reinforces its position in the engineering and infrastructure consultancy space as well. And the order is expected to improve revenue visibility as well in the coming quarters. Moving on then, let's talk about KPIT Tech on the flip side that plunged after the company warned of weaker than expected first quarter. As you can see on your screens, 17% knock really coming in. It's really a gash that you're looking at when you talk about this particular counter, and they're expecting revenue to decline and margins to come under pressure as well. So that's something that's really gotten a reaction out of Dalal Street as well. So you do have a little bit of a weaker demand sentiment that you're looking at from European automotive customers as well that the company has flagged. Aside from that, the disappointing outlook has triggered sharp cuts in earnings estimates and brokerage. Moving on then, let's talk about global brokerages, Bernstein and Macquarie, that have reshuffled their India portfolios as geopolitical tensions in West Asia ease. Now, you do have Bernstein their India portfolios as geopolitical tensions in West Asia ease. Now, you do have Bernstein that has exited ICICI Bank and IndusInd Bank while adding Axis Bank, citing improving asset quality and better credit cost outlook as well. Both brokerages, in fact, have also adjusted some of their sector allocations to really reflect changing macro conditions and valuation trends. So that's something that they're looking at in terms of those two brokerages. The portfolio changes are signaling a little bit of a shift in strategy as well, rather than just a change in their broader view on Indian equities. Moving on then, let's talk about oil marketing companies that have reduced the price of 19 kg commercial LPG cylinders by close to 183 rupees. And that's from today itself, offering relief to restaurants, hotels and other commercial users. So the price cut is coming in as global fuel supply stabilize following easing tensions in West Asia. However, there is no change when you talk about the pricing of domestic LPG cylinders. So that's something that you're looking at by the way of updates. Lower fuel costs are expected to reduce operating expenses for commercial establishments, and that is the key headline that you're picking up here. Moving on then, let's talk about Paisalo Digital that has reported a sharp increase in promoter shareholding during the June quarter. When you talk about this particular counter, about a 20% uptick thereabout coming in for this stock, and the promoter group stake has been risen by about 4.97 percentage points to 46.72%, and that's through open market purchases. But let's talk about this continued increase in promoter ownership as well, because it's being viewed as a sign of confidence really in the company's long-term growth strategy. So following the announcement, you do have the shares that hit the 20% upper circuit and closed very close to that level as well. Moving on then, let's talk about Bartek Babak that has secured a large international order from the city of Vienna for the expansion of a water work project in Austria. The contract, classified in the 250 crore to 600 crore rupee range, strengthens the company's presence when it comes to the European water infrastructure as well. And you do have Babak that's going to be executing the complete technology package for the project, which is scheduled for commissioning by 2030. Moving on then, let's get to the word coming in from brokerages that have largely, in fact, welcomed Kotak Mahindra Bank's acquisition of Deutsche Bank's India's private banking business as well. So you do have analysts really believing that when you talk about this particular deal, it's going to be strengthening Kotak's wealth management franchise, along with that, really expand its high net worth customer base. However, they've also flagged integration and client retention as the key execution risks here. Moving on then, let's talk about Advait Jewels that made a strong stock market debut, listing at a 37% premium over its IPO price on the NSE. The shares opened at somewhere close to 188 rupees, and that's against the issue price of 138 rupees, really reflecting robust investor demand. And the listing is following an IPO that was subscribed over 212 times, mind you, across investor categories. So the company really is planning to use the IPO proceeds to fund growth as well as reduce debt going forward. Moving on then, let's talk about NAC Packaging's 439 crore rupee IPO that is open for subscription as well, and it's going to be closing on July 3rd. So that's really the date that you're marking on your calendars. The issue has attracted healthy investor interest on the first day, supported by a rise in the grey market premium. Now, when you talk about this particular IPO, it's comprising a fresh issue, along with that an offer for sale with proceeds from the fresh issue earmarked really for business expansion. Moving on then, let's talk to you about some business news. Now, Indigo has introduced a new light fare option for travelers looking for lower ticket prices. So this is some good news for you if you're looking to travel light and looking to pay less for that. So the entry-level fare is designed for passengers traveling only with cabin baggage and who prefer paying only for additional services that they choose. The new fare is going to be available across domestic and international non-stop routes. In fact, it can be booked for one-way, round-trip and multi-city journeys for both adults and children. Moving on then, let's talk about UPI transactions that moderated in the month of June after hitting record highs in the month of May. Now, the total transaction value declined 3% on a month-on-month basis. So you're looking at somewhere close to 28 lakh crore rupees in terms of transactions, while transaction volumes also fell about 2% to 22.72 billion. In fact, despite the sequential dip, you're looking at both value and volumes really remaining sharply higher more than a year ago. The slowdown largely is reflecting a high base after May's record performance, with daily transaction activity really continuing to stay robust. Moving on then, let's talk about the US government that has reversed its decision to restrict exports of Anthropic's most advanced AI model. The company is saying that access to Claude, Fable 5 and Mythos 5 is going to be restored after the Commerce Department lifted the ban. The restrictions were imposed last month, mind you, over national security concerns, but Washington is saying that Anthropic has now agreed to enhance risk monitoring, closer coordination with authorities as well, and reporting of malicious activity, while the government retains the right to reimpose these curbs if needed. Moving on then, let's talk about Amazon that is facing legal action in Australia over its decision to introduce advertisements on Prime Video. The country's consumer watchdog alleges the tech giant used unfair contract terms by requiring subscribers to pay an additional fee to continue enjoying an ad-free experience. The regulator is saying that more than 1 million annual subscribers were affected between 2023 and 2025. Amazon is saying that it's reviewing the case while maintaining that it cooperated with the investigation and remains focused on its customers. Moving on then, let's talk about Microsoft that is reportedly preparing another round of layoffs, and that's as per reports with job cuts affecting less than 2.5% of its global workforce. In fact, reports are stating the announcement could come as early as next week, and the move is coming in as the companies across the tech, media and financial sectors will continue to tighten costs while simultaneously also ramping up investments when it comes to AI infrastructure. The latest cuts highlight how the AI boom is really reshaping corporate spending priorities and workforce strategies across the industry. Moving on now, let's talk about motorists that have some relief at the fuel pump now. Private fuel retailer Naira Energy has reduced petrol prices by 5 rupees a litre and diesel prices by 3 rupees a litre across its retail network. And this is effective from today. The price cut follows a sharp decline in global crude oil prices as geopolitical tensions in the Middle East ease, and you do have concerns over supply disruptions that have subsided. Since then, the move could offer some relief coming into consumers amid softer energy prices. On to some national news then. The Uttar Pradesh government has extended by 15 days the tenure of the special investigation team probing alleged misuse of donations meant for the Ram temple in Ayodhya. And the 3-member SIT constituted last month had submitted a preliminary report that led to the registration of an FIR. 8 people have been named in the case so far. The extension is expected to really help investigators examine the financial trail and gather further evidence before submitting their final report. Moving on then, India has taken another step towards strengthening its indigenous defense capabilities. IIT Delhi, in collaboration with the Defense Research and Development Organization, or DRDO, has developed a tactical aerostat capable of carrying payloads to altitudes of up to 20 kilometers. The high-altitude platform is designed to enhance surveillance and also communication capabilities. That's something that you're looking at. So it really offers a cost-effective solution for defense operations. The development underlines India's continued push for homegrown defense technology and greater self-reliance when it comes to strategic systems as well. Moving on then, let's talk about heavy rainfall that has disrupted normal life across Mumbai, with the weather department in fact issuing an orange alert coming in for the city and neighbouring Thane. Local train services on the harbour line were also affected after an overhead wire really snapped early this morning as well. And you're looking at that alert really changing to the red alert as well, and that's an update that you have in terms of rain as well. Watch out for the situation as it evolves. Moving on then, let's talk about diplomacy remaining the preferred path. Tensions between the US and Iran are far from over. Delegations from both sides are holding separate talks with Qatari mediators in Doha, though it remains unclear when direct negotiations will really be beginning as well. And Iran is saying that it will never compromise on its rights in the Strait of Hormuz, while the release of $6 billion in frozen Iranian assets is emerging as a key issue as well. Tehran has also warned that while it is pursuing dialogue, it is fully prepared to respond if the talks fail. Moving on then, a major legal setback for US President Donald Trump's immigration agenda. Now, the US Supreme Court has ruled that children born in the United States are citizens at birth, even if their parents are in the country unlawfully or temporarily. In a 6-3 decision, the court has said that the 14th Amendment clearly guarantees birthright citizenship as well, and rejecting Trump's attempt to curb the 150-year-old policy through an executive order. The ruling preserves a long-standing constitutional protection and is being hailed by some of the civil rights groups as well as a significant victory. Moving on then, let's talk about US President Trump's latest financial disclosures as well that show just how central crypto has become to his wealth as well. Ethics filings reveal that Trump reported more than $1.4 billion in income from his family's digital asset ventures during 2025. Now, the bulk of that really came from World Liberty Financial. That's the crypto platform that's co-founded by Trump and his sons, which generated nearly $800 million for his companies. The disclosures show more than $520 million came from token sales, while over $250 million was earned from selling interests in the business, underscoring how crypto has really emerged as a major source of the US president's income. Moving on closer to home, then, India and Japan are set to take the strategic partnership a step further. And you do have Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi arriving in the national capital today on her first official visit to India. Tomorrow, she's going to be holding the 16th India-Japan Annual Summit with PM Modi, where the two leaders are expected to review cooperation across trade, investment, defense, technology, and economic security. With both countries, in fact, set to mark 75 years of diplomatic relations in 2027, this visit is expected to reinforce a partnership that has become central to the Indo-Pacific strategic landscape as well. Moving on then, let's talk about tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan that are escalating sharply. The Taliban says that it has launched airstrikes inside Pakistani territory days after Pakistan carried out deadly air attacks in eastern Afghanistan. Islamabad, meanwhile, is saying that its forces intercepted 4 drones over Balochistan, adding to concerns of a widening military confrontation. And the latest exchange is really marking a fresh escalation coming in months of cross-border tensions, raising fears of further instability in the region. Onto the world of sports now. Mexico ended a 40-year FIFA World Cup knockout stage drought with a 2-0 victory over Ecuador to really book a place in the round of 16. France also advanced comfortably, beating Sweden 3-0 with a dominant display led by Kylian Mbappe as well. And you do have Mexico that is going to now be facing the winner of England versus DR Congo as well, while France has set up a last 16 clash against Paraguay. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Express. Thank you so much for tuning in.
माँ भी हमेशा पी मार्क मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में. P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933. India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
I'm delighted to be chairing a committee of such distinguished fellow businessmen, bankers. It's just lovely to be back on this NDTV jury. I have been a fan of NDTV for a long time.
Many of the nominees are extremely close together in terms of what they've done.
Gender parity to be reflected while we choose leadership as well.
It's also important that how they are reshaping the industries.
We've got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards.
आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है.
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में.
माँ भी हमेशा पी मार्क मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी। ये आपके लिए।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में. P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
India's unshakable news habit. NDTV.com is India's #1 English news website. India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
These kind of awards and jury lineup, you are truly giving it the right weightage.
I think it's heartening to see talent that there is across India Inc.
We should be awarding companies and individuals who have focused not only on growth but also on bringing good governance.
Be part of jury and vote on the people, the men, the women, the companies in India who have the right stuff is a great opportunity for us.
For us, the biggest thing is trust. That's what we provide.
We need leaders in India that can help take India being a global superpower.
We've got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards.
Market ends higher at 24,106 mark. Benchmarks and broader indices move higher as Brent eases below the $72 a barrel mark. All eyes on the US-Iran talks scheduled to be held on Wednesday. India marks 9 years of GST, celebrates ambitious economic reforms journey. India's GST collections rise 13.9% year-on-year in June. Fresh government data suggests that lower tax rates helped expand the tax base. ATF prices reduced by 5 rupees per litre as crude softens, but industry sources suggest consumers may have to wait for airfare relief as ATF prices remain above pre-war levels. Even OMCs are unlikely to cut petrol diesel prices immediately despite crude falling. The price of commercial LPG cylinders has been cut by 183 rupees 50 paise as war eases. New prices effective from today, marking the first cut in commercial cylinder rates this year. Union Cabinet approves 2 major infrastructure projects, including 6-lane Dwarka Tunnel and a 4-lane access-controlled highway in UP, aimed at improving connectivity and easing traffic congestion. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi brings her first official India visit, aiming to deepen strategic ties with PM Modi, boost economic security, cooperation, and strengthen business partnerships amid wider evolving geopolitics across the Indo-Pacific region. US removes sanctions on 4 Indian firms from its specifically designated national list. The move comes nearly 2 years after they were sanctioned over allegations of supporting Russia's military-industrial base. Incessant rains batter Mumbai, traffic crawls across key stretches, waterlogged roads choke the city. IMD sounds red alert for Mumbai and Thane as disruptions mount and chaos grips commuters.
Anthropic enters the healthcare industry with an AI drug discovery program. Anthropic aims to start the program focused on neglected diseases. Hello and welcome. This is Profit 360 on NDTV Profit, and I'm your host Gargi Shetty. Along the next half an hour, we'll bring you the latest on markets as well as national and international news. For our top story today, the government is set to examine WhatsApp's upcoming usernames feature amid concerns that it could be misused for fraud and impersonation. Now, the feature allows users to connect using a unique username instead of sharing their phone number. My colleague Rishabh has now more details on why the centre is taking a closer look. Over to you, Rishabh.
Absolutely. What we've picked up with regards to the WhatsApp's new feature called usernames. This is essentially a feature that lets you message people even without your phone number. So if you want to connect with someone, you can simply have their username and then talk to them. The concern that the government has with this is that there's fear of impersonation and a lot of fraud, given the fact that anyone can reserve any sort of a username for themselves. For example, if someone is to reserve the username for Delhi police or any other high-ranking official and misuse that possibly for fraud, that is a concern that the government has brought up. What the officials are also telling us is the fact that they are looking into the legality of it all, and if there is any sort of a discrepancy found, any way found to sort of move against this feature, then a legal notice or a letter could be sent to Meta and WhatsApp as well. That's what we're picking up on this latest feature. This feature is an upcoming feature. It has not come into play yet. It might come into play later this year, but that is something that the government is keeping its eyes peeled on. They are looking into the possible legal mechanisms to block this feature as well. That's what we're picking up.
Right, Rishabh, thanks for that. I'm sure all of us have our eyes peeled on what's going to come out of this. Now, moving on to the markets, D Street has ended firmly higher in trade today as positive bias was seen in the benchmarks. Nifty ended around the key 24,000 level, while Sensex also saw a healthy 400 points rally. Broader markets also gained in tandem with the key indices, with both small and mid caps ending the day with modest gains. Jasmeet now joins us for a complete market roundup. Over to you, Jasmeet.
Well, a strong day for markets today. Nifty 50 ends in green and gains about 0.5% in today's trade. In terms of top gainers, we have stocks like Eternal, Adani Enterprise gaining the most. Well, we look at Eternal, it gained about 6%, while Adani Enterprise saw an uptick of nearly 3.5%. In terms of broader market, while that underperforms the benchmark in today's trade, Nifty Midcap 150 ends in green and gains about 0.2%. In terms of top gainers in Midcap 150, we have stocks like Hexaware Technology and 197 Communication on the top gainers in midcap space. And in terms of the movement that they have seen across the market is Hexaware gained about 7%, while 197 Communication has gained about 5.5%. In terms of the small cap, even that ends close to green, while it's almost up 0.5%. In terms of top gainer, we have RITES gaining about 13%. In terms of the sectorial trend, all sectors end in gain today's trade, but barring Nifty Pharma, Nifty Metal and Nifty IT. So we see a mixed set of sectors trend in today's trade, while Nifty IT becomes the top loser. Now, in terms of the Nifty Realty, the top gaining sector, which gained about 3.5%. Aditya Birla and Godrej Properties are top gainers in Nifty Realty, both gained about 5%. In terms of top losing sector, that's Nifty IT, which is down about 2%. In terms of top losers, in Nifty IT, we have stocks like Coforge down about 6.5%, while HCL Tech is also down about 3.5%. In terms of the key trends that we saw across sectors today, while Nifty Realty, Nifty Oil and Gas, Nifty Defense up for a second consecutive day, while Nifty FMCG, Nifty PSU Bank, Nifty Financial Services, Nifty Bank snaps its 2 days of losing streak and gain in today's trade. And Nifty Auto becomes the sector which is up for the second consecutive day, while Nifty Pharma snaps its 2 days of gaining streak and ends in red in today's trade.
Right, thanks for that, Jasmeet. In fact, earlier today, we also spoke to Dinshaw Irani of Helios Capital about where he's seeing the best growth opportunities in the market. He shares why mid-caps and small caps continue to stand out and why portfolios are increasingly shifting towards these segments. Let's listen to what he had to say.
You're seeing a lot of excitement in the mid and small cap space, and that's what we've been doing. We've been, in fact, actively shifting our portfolio to mid and small caps. In my PMS, we've been very proactive. It's the large caps are down to 43%. In my flexi cap, I think we'll be at 58% at the end of the month. I mean, the June quarter, month. It'll be down to 58% large cap. So basically, what we are doing is trying to chase growth, and that is only coming in the mid cap and the small cap space, and that's where we are. I think this excitement is going to be there.
9 years after the rollout of the goods and services tax, government data suggests that lower GST rates are helping expand the tax base. Now, following last year's rate rationalization, average monthly taxable supplies grew 22.5% in the second half of FY26. Sectors such as construction, automobiles, and precious metals led the increase in business activity. At the same time, lower input tax credit balances indicate improved cash flow and a more efficient GST system. And now moving on, despite a cut in ATF prices, air flyers may still not get any relief in fare costs. Sources say immediate fare relief for passengers is unlikely. Danish is now here with more details on this.
Well, that's correct. The passengers believe that after the ATF prices have been cut, even that will translate into lower ticket prices. It doesn't seem the case as of now, as sources have told NDTV Profit that while it is a welcome move that the OMCs have cut the ATF prices by ₹5, and now the ATF prices per litre in India on an average is ₹110 per litre. But if we calculate this in a kilolitre format, then we can clearly see that even right now, 1 kilolitre of ATF is over 1.10 lakh rupees. And this particular price is much higher than the pre-war levels. If we talk about the pre-war levels, at that time the ATF prices on an average were hovering between 1 lakh to 1.04 lakh rupees. But then we saw a sudden surge, and because of that sudden surge, the airlines ran into losses. So as of now, the airlines will not cut the ticket prices, and they are on a wait and watch mode as of now. But sources are telling us that in the next few days or next few weeks, if there is another ATF price revision, or if there is sudden drop in the global crude oil prices and the Saudi crack coming down, then we can definitely expect the airlines to think about something or the other. But as of now, the airlines don't intend to pass on the benefit of lower ticket prices to the passengers.
Right. And just stay with us, Danish. We know that Delhi has unveiled an aggressive roadmap for faster EV adoption after the centre rolled out the EV Policy 2.0. So just tell us exactly what this policy is about and what benefits is it going to pass.
Well, the Delhi government today has officially published the new EV policy, which is called the Delhi EV Policy 2.0, and it will last till the 31st of March 2030. And in the next 4 years, the government's main intention is to have more and more EVs running on the road. And for this, the government will give incentives as well as certain scrappage benefits. So if certain people that want to trade in their old ICE three-wheeler, then they will have to buy an electric three-wheeler, and then only they'll get that subsidy, as well as they will get some more benefits. But if you look at from the enforcement point of view, the Delhi government had made it very much clear that from 1st January 2027, only electric three-wheelers will be registered in Delhi, and similarly from 2028, only electric two-wheelers can be registered in Delhi. And as far as the four-wheelers are concerned, for the first 1 lakh vehicles, the Delhi government will be giving subsidy up to 1 lakh rupees, but it is only for the first 1 lakh people that are willing to trade in their old ICE vehicle for an EV. On the other hand, the government also has very aggressive plans when it comes to expand the charging infrastructure in the city, and the government aims to have thousands and thousands of such charging points across the city. And for this, while the overall outlay of the scheme is 15,000 crore rupees, but 8,000 crore rupees have specially been earmarked for expanding the infrastructure. Besides this, in the Gazette notification, the Delhi government has also made it clear that OEMs have to ensure that a consistent supply of EVs towards Delhi is maintained, and there is no form of shortage. And in order to curb the range anxiety that usually users have, for that the government has also directed that at every dealership there should be at least 3 charging points, in which 2 should be for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, and 1 should be dedicated for the cars. So all in all, if we see, the Delhi government has set its side clear, and it believes that from 27-28, at least 95% of the new vehicles that will be being registered in Delhi, they will be electric.
Right. Thanks for breaking that down for us, Danish. But fewer sources are telling NDTV Profit that OMCs are unlikely to cut petrol and diesel prices immediately despite the softer crude. Sasa is now here with more details.
Right, despite softer global crude prices, consumers may have to wait a little longer for any cut in petrol and diesel rates. That's because sources tell us that OMCs are unlikely to reduce retail fuel prices immediately, as they are still recovering losses from the West Asia conflict. In May alone, OMCs reported cumulative losses of nearly rupees 1,000 crore a day, with under recoveries currently estimated at about 500 to 600 crore a day. Refineries are also processing high-cost crude purchased when prices had surged over $100 a barrel. This expensive inventory is also expected to last another 1 to 2 months, is what we are given to understand. Companies, in meantime, are also waiting for more clarity on the global crude price outlook before taking a call. According to S&P Global Energy, crude prices could climb to $80 to $90 a barrel in the second half of 2026, that is this year, as oil inventories continue to shrink globally after the supply disruptions linked to the West Asia conflict. Analysts also say that normalization of supplies could take up to a quarter or two. Meanwhile, Nayara Energy, which is a private player, has announced a 5 rupees per litre cut in petrol prices and 3 rupees per litre cut in diesel prices. However, state-run OMCs are not expected to match these reductions anytime soon.
Right, thanks for that, Sasa. But staying on the fuel impact, commercial cooking gas has become cheaper from today, offering much needed relief to restaurants, hotels, and other businesses. Now, oil marketing companies have reduced the price of a 19 kg commercial LPG cylinder by 183 rupees, marking the first cut this year after months of steep hikes triggered by supply disruptions and geopolitical tensions in West Asia. Now, in Delhi, the price has come down to 2,930 rupees per cylinder from 3,113 rupees. The reduction follows signs of easing fuel supply concerns after the Iran conflict. However, an important note is that there's still no relief for households, as the price of the 14.2 kg domestic LPG cylinder remains unchanged. The government has clarified that it did not describe the E20 ethanol blending program as an experiment before the Supreme Court, calling such reports incorrect. The Apex Court has ordered status quo on ethanol allocation for 2025-26. Sentiment may remain weak for ethanol-linked sugar stocks. Sharad is here with more details.
Well, that's a pretty interesting take. Our government has categorically denied calling the E20 program an experiment in Supreme Court matter. Now, let me give you a perspective. What actually earlier happened, BPCL had contested this earlier order in the Karnataka High Court on the allocation to increase the ethanol for the 25-26. Also, the government stance looking at it, of course, this is from the attorney spokesperson, and they had stated about ethanol blending program being an ongoing experiment. But overall, what's the Supreme Court verdict coming like? That's important because the transfer petitions which were there, they have been status quo. They have maintained for the supply year 25-26. And if you look at more details, this is actually status quo for the supply allocation to the oil marketing companies by Karnataka High Court. Now, the government has clarified, and this is as per Press Information Bureau, any suggestion that the government has described this program E20, which I'm talking about, before Supreme Court is experiment is totally incorrect, and this does not represent the submissions made on behalf of Union of India. But what's the impact? OMC, it's largely neutral, a little bit of sentimentally negative impact coming in for sugar stocks, Trualt, BCL Industries and Gulshan Polyols. But remember, now the clarification has also come in and the government has denied it. That means the program remains on track.
Right, and staying with the ethanol push, sources say the government may cut broken rice allocation. The move could reshape ethanol feedstock dynamics going ahead. Let's get Rishabh in for more details.
Right. What we're picking up on this very crucial cabinet update is the fact that the broken rice allocation under the public distribution system or the ration system, that might be changed from about 25 to 10%, so that 15% delta that the government is now getting, worth about 90 lakh tons of broken rice, that could now be diverted to ethanol feedstock. And this is, of course, for more and more ethanol blending that the government is introducing, the sort of flex fuels that are coming in, moving away from fossil fuels and more towards sort of domestic reliance on biofuels is what the government's focus is also on. Now, as a result of this 15% broken rice also moving on, there were questions around the food security concerns that could come up, and the government has assured that will remain protected no matter what happens. So that's what we're picking up. The cabinet briefing is at 3 p.m. and we can expect some more announcements then as well.
Mahindra & Mahindra's tractor business is once again at the mercy of the monsoon. Historical data shows that in years of weak rainfall, tractor demand tends to soften, with M&M volumes declining. Let's go across to Puneet now for a deep dive into monsoon and tractor sales impact.
The latest news being that for the month of June, the sales has been quite strong for the company. But when you look at the historical annual sales data points, 40% of sales for the tractor business for M&M happen in the first 4 months. So the monsoons are really crucial. When you look at the last 6 years of data of rainfall, in only 2 of the last 6 years was the rainfall percentage of long-term average below 100%. So that was in calendar year 21 and calendar year 23. But when you look at the sales data point, now they of course do the sales data point in terms of the financial year aspect. M&M's auto sales largely were flat in both of those years. And when you look at the numbers, here is where it gets interesting, because in both those years when you have, so calendar year 21 will be effectively FY22. This is the green pillar you have to look at. Marginal, very marginal growth compared to FY21. And the last one was in calendar year 23. So you have to look at FY24 numbers. And here is where you see the data. So those 2 years when rainfall was below 100% of long percentage average is where you saw that impact on tractor sales. Last year was at about 108% and you saw very stupendous growth. This was also led by the GST rate cuts in the second half. But this is a very important data point that we've put out. Also in terms of, as you've seen as well, now this data of course talks about the IMD expectations for El Nino. Now June, the expectation of El Nino is weak, but the intensity increases going into September. Now this time around, when you look at the September data, you have to also watch out for last year. Because of the GST rate cuts, a lot of the sales were also incrementally slower in the first half. But the only expectation of El Nino starts from the September time onwards, while for July is weak to moderate, and a similar one for August as well. What you are now looking out for, more importantly, Nomura has pointed out to monitor the way El Nino is of course progressing. Also watch out for the most important part is expected that for the whole of monsoon, the El Nino impact is expected to be weaker to moderate at this point of time. So hence more of a back-ended impact. And finally, India has experienced one of its driest Junes. You have to watch out for the auto sales numbers. Some of them we are already seeing a very strong traction coming in, especially on the commercial vehicle and the tractor side of things. But as I mentioned, a very important thing to note is that the 40% of sales happen in the first 4 months. Watch out for impact in July through going forward. The other factor that the projections have largely been at this point of time holding on, but M&M June sales for tractors were slightly lower than estimates as well. So you're seeing already the impact of driest June, and H2 will have that high base effect. But M&M's guidance currently is a mid to single digit growth. Last year it was 20%, but this year, because of the high base of last year, it's something to watch out for.
Right, so clearly the monsoons continue to be an important factor for the markets. But moving on, the Union Cabinet has approved 2 major highway infrastructure projects worth over 14,100 crore rupees. Now, the first is a 6,970 crore rupees 6-lane tunnel in Delhi that will connect Dwarka Expressway to NH8 to Vasant Kunj. The project aims to ease congestion and improve connectivity to the airport and South Delhi. The cabinet also cleared a 7,145 rupee crore 4-lane access-controlled highway connecting Kanpur and Kabrai in Uttar Pradesh. Listen into Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav's comments on this.
पहला प्रोजेक्ट 6-लेन द्वारका टनल, ये दिल्ली के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा वरदान साबित होगी। 8 किलोमीटर्स की ये टनल एक तरीके से बहुत लंबे समय से जो डिमांड थी, आप सब जानते हैं एयरपोर्ट के पास में जो शिवजी की मूर्ति है, शिवजी की मूर्ति वाला इंटरचेंज है, उस इंटरचेंज से टनल नीचे चालू होगी और वहां से सीधा वसंत कुंज के पास आएगी। आगे आके फिर ये जुड़ेगी एम्स के पास। ये शिव मूर्ति देख रहे हैं आप, शिव मूर्ति लिखा हुआ है इंदिरा अपना जो एयरपोर्ट है, एयरपोर्ट से नेशनल हाईवे पे, वहां से सीधा वसंत कुंज और उसके आगे नेल्सन मंडेला मार्ग और आगे जाके फिर जो बारापुला का जो ब्रिज है उस ब्रिज तक पूरा कनेक्ट हो जाती है।
Indigo has introduced a new economy fare category called Indigo Light. The new option is meant for passengers traveling with cabin baggage only and will be available exclusively through the airline's direct booking channels. Bookings open from today, while the new fare will be available for travel starting from July 15th. And Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi will visit New Delhi for her first official visit to India, with both sides set to unveil an ambitious roadmap for the next decade of bilateral cooperation. From strengthening semiconductor supply chains and rare earth partnerships to expanding maritime security and boosting investment, the summit is expected to deepen one of Asia's most significant strategic relationships. Let's take a look at this report on this.
Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi touches down in New Delhi in the next few hours, initiating her first official state visit to India. Tight security around Japan's ongoing parliamentary diet session shifted the entire three-day itinerary exclusively to the capital, removing a previously planned leg in Assam's Guwahati. The core bilateral meetings unfold on the 2nd of July, featuring intensive strategic talks and high-level economic forums, followed by her departure back to Tokyo on the 3rd of July. At the very center of this whirlwind itinerary sits the Japan-India joint vision for the next decade. As both leaders convene at Hyderabad House, 5 distinct strategic pillars dominate this summit landscape. Both nations will sign a landmark joint declaration to actively resist regional economic coercion. Leaders will formalize deep industrial cooperation to secure critical semiconductor manufacturing pipelines. New agreements will diversify and secure the supply of essential rare earth minerals. The summit will expand joint naval drills to safeguard vital Indo-Pacific shipping lines. A massive 50-member business delegation aims to aggressively bridge the bilateral trade gap. The 50-member corporate delegation accompanies Prime Minister Takaichi, bringing executives from Suzuki Motors, Toyota Shusho, and Itochu Corporation to New Delhi. This heavily commercialized presence builds directly upon decades of foundational history. Official diplomatic ties established back in 1952 have anchored Asian geopolitical stability for generations. Japanese bullet train technology and metro funding have completely revolutionized Indian public infrastructure. The deep ancient Buddhist connect forms the unbreakable civilizational foundation between both the nations. Modern defense cooperation has evolved rapidly through the powerful four-nation Quad security framework. As New Delhi opens its doors, the summit looks to cement a special strategic and global partnership that balances commercial trade with a unified regional security front.
Right, and during their con call, Maruti Suzuki's management responded to NDTV Profit's question on sales. Let's have a listen to that.
So your small car momentum is seen visibly continuing in this particular month as well. So just wanted to understand what is the current feedback on the ground, because you've seen some fuel price hike, but is that seeing that there's no constraint on demand as of now?
First of all, you're coming to, I think what you're talking about is the production part of it. As I told you, you have seen that we have done the ever highest number in this quarter. If we see the number domestic, OEM plus exports, that clearly shows that we have ramped up our production capacity. However, at the same time, I'd like to bring your notice that in the month of June, we used to always have a block shutdown, maintenance shutdown for 1 week. So obviously for 1 week, we didn't have any productions with us. And after the production, the lines start, it takes some time to ramp up also. So which will not be the problem in the next month for the month of July. But despite that also, we have done 150,000 in the month of June.
That's all the time we've had on this edition of Profit 360. But stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more news and updates.
आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
माँ भी हमेशा पी मार्क मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी, ये आपके लिए।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
I'm delighted to be chairing a committee of such distinguished fellow businessmen, bankers. It's just lovely to be back on this NDTV jury. I have been a fan of NDTV for a long time.
Many of the nominees are extremely close together in terms of what they've done.
I think it's also important that how they are reshaping the industries, commercial activities which they are into. And it's a very judicious mix of people to choose from. My compliments to the team.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards. India's unshakable news habit. NDTV.com is India's #1 English news website.
Hi, I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Watch me on NDTV Profit, where I break down the day's biggest business stories. What happened, why it matters, and what it means for your money.
Hi, I'm Neeraj Shah. Watch me on NDTV Profit for the most incisive market intelligence and meaningful corporate conversation.
And I'm Alex Matthew. Markets, mutual funds, insurance, personal finance. I help you cut through the noise and make smarter financial choices. And here's where you can watch us.
क्या सर्च इंजन के चक्कर में पड़े हो दोनों? अब कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं। कॉल 9300
Hello and welcome to KYC. You are watching NDTV Profit with me, Sharad Dubey, where I get you very interesting companies, interesting stories, and maybe interesting alpha as well. But today there's also a very interesting company, but try to guess it. I'm sure you'll try to guess it by the end of the hints. It's a Thane-based EPC player. I'll give you more hints. Try to guess it. The stock is up 47% from March lows itself. Third hint I would like to give you, and that is they recently won a 3,500 crore order from Maharashtra state government. Last important one is of course the listing on September 3, 2025, and it's of course backed by market legends Mukul Agarwal and Ashish Kacholia. I'm sure you must be guessing it by now which company I'm talking about. The company in focus is Vikran Engineering, and yes, the company is coming for the second time in KYC after 7 odd months. So we need to see how much of that change has happened since the last time the company came, and why are we calling this company? Of course, the major reason for this is almost a 3,500 crore order coming in. Remember, the overall book is only around 5,000, 6,000 crores without this order. So this becomes very important to start our conversation with. The growth outlook, especially on the data center front, what new things the company is trying, we need to figure that out. Also important questions would be the revenue and the EBITDA outlook for the longer term. The new order win, how much incremental benefit starts coming in, order book guidance across the key verticals. They have 3 to 4 important verticals, which I'll explain you in some time. And also the execution and the raw material costing. Does that hamper the Q1 numbers? We have seen that in the industry. It's happening. Asset light model versus pure. What's the story here? We need to understand that, and the company has of course recently listed, so we need to figure that out as well. Rakesh Markhedkar, he's the CMD at Vikran Engineering. He will be answering all the questions. But let's try to understand about the company. A company karti kya hai? EPC player, so it's definitely there. They are diversified, play in that, but which segments do they work in? That's what we need to understand. But before we start, EPC means engineering, procurement, construction. This is for the folks who are tracking the sector for the first time. You can note it down and you make it more simplified version for you so that you understand the entire story. Now the areas they work in, there is power, water, rail, electrification, solar EPC and smart metering. I explained you about data center angle also. I'll come to that in some while. They've completed 45 projects across 14 states. And the next important thing is their supply chain. They have of 3,500 plus vendors. They have stressed about the asset light business also and having their in-house engineering and design facility. Current order book, including this larger order book, stands at 9,000 crore rupees, and that's a big jump coming in from the last time they had put in the exchange filings. Currently active in 16 states with 190 plus projects and store locations are there. So this is the entire story we are getting about the company, but it's backed by large big investors in the market. This includes, of course, Ashish Kacholia and Mukul Agrawal as well. So there's a good backing coming in. The order announcement, that is very much important. This is almost 3,520 crore worth of order coming in. It's an EPC order, but of course solar module supply is also there. Let's get into more details about this order win. This is of course from Maharashtra state government, and there is a revenue potential also at play. We'd like to get in more details about this order. That's there on your screen. The revenue potential, let's look at that number as well. As this is of course spread across the next 25 years. This is the 961 megawatt project which is there. And overall, let's just get in the final numbers and then we move ahead for the other segment as well. This is the number, 550 crores rupees. That's the projected revenue coming in, and it's a very high EBITDA margin product if you are tracking this theme as well. But moving on from the order announcements, let's understand how the segment wise order book looks like. And largely solar is 49% of that order book coming in. And I had mentioned you that there are other sectors also which the company follows. This includes the power T&D, which is transmission and distribution. There is water and railway, but of course these are on the lower side. This is how the segment looks if you do the order book breakup. But there is also the B2G element here. PSUs and government, I have separated that. That's what the company has given. PSUs have 18% of the order book coming in, and the government, that stands at roughly 31%. But they have stated that the private sector is still the majority, 51 odd percent. So that's decent kind of exposure, and it's evenly balanced, it seems like. But look at the key clienteles. Who are the key clienteles for it? We have NTPC, Power Grid, Indian Railways and SGV, and these are the key clients which the company has. Of course, they have other clients as well, so that means there is an esteemed client list as well. But what we work for the company, let's talk about that. Data center theme is in focus. That is what the street is looking at. Second important thing is the large order win announcements have started coming in post its listing, so this may augur well for the company. Also, they are moving towards the asset light model which they had mentioned. The street needs some extra time for that, so we'll be focusing on that as well. Also, another important reason is the strong promoter experience, and I'll give you all the history about the promoter and his connections which are there in the ecosystem and an esteemed client base. These are the reasons why Vikran Engineering, it might work positively, factors playing in for the company. But what may not work, and the industry in which they are in, execution risk will always be there. Of course, there's a little bit of monsoon impact also. FIDI sell-off has been coming in post its IPO coming in, the lock-in expiry coming in. So sell-off is definitely there in the demand supply issues, and high working capital model is also there at times. If you just see the numbers, you'll understand it. But of course, pros are weighing over cons right now after the last 6 months. What has changed? But what has not changed are the KYC ratings where we judge a company, and a minor adjustment is definitely there, because instead of return ratios, it's good to actually get a company and capture them in the order book because of the inherent nature of the business. Also the usual, so the shareholding pattern, street cred, how much money has been made since IPO or during this period. Remember, the period is quite short, so take things with a pinch of salt. Valuations and outlook is also something which will get the company in. Let's start with the income statement. What's happening here? In income statement, largely 3-year CAGR numbers we have taken, and for a APC company, this is a pretty decent number. Anything above 15-20% CAGR shows a little bit of stability, and they have actually put their concentration risk, which is there between government and private, on an evenly balanced space. So net, let's just pull out the margins also in the Q4 numbers to show you how things have moved. A little bit of dip is there in the margins, especially in the year-on-year basis, but most of the numbers, overall PAT and even revenue, seems to do a good job. Margins, you see, largely there was an uptick coming in, but now a little bit of, you could say an impact coming in. It's around 14%. We'll try to ask the management what would be the long-term average margins looking like, and is there any hit to be taken in the first quarter or not. But net prima facie, on a long-term basis, it's a strong thumbs up as well. Balance sheet, let's get in that as well. And balance sheet, it has been managed properly. And remember, the higher number of the working capital which was there, that was reduced in the IPO. That's why the proceeds were also taken in, and you can see a decent capitalization is there. Cash flows of almost, cash bank balance, is of 220 crore rupees, and it's evenly managed right now also. So balance sheet also seems strong, so I've given a thumbs up. Cash flow, remember, the business model is such that there might be lumpiness also, especially if you're having a B2G exposure in this industry. तो कभी पैसा आता है, तो कभी पैसा डिले होता है, तो कभी प्रोजेक्ट्स ही नहीं आते हैं. These are the problems which are there, and that is why I want to keep this neutral, even though the net cash flows have improved, but we need to give in more time to judge this company and even the business model. So let's take things with a pinch of salt. I'm going to give this just a neutral rating. Order wins, this is important. I've taken that. The work order of more than 3,500 crore rupees, that is where the street